Chapter 883. Chapter 0882. Borrowing money from Lin Yi. With that thought, Peng Zhan nodded. Okay, I promise you. But how can I give you the money? After I give it to you, will you let my daughter and Shu go immediately? I'll give you an account, and you can transfer the money there. After I check the account, I'll give you an address. Tell the man named Lin Yi to pick up your daughter and her best friend. Remember, he can only come alone. If there are too many people, we will kill the hostages, Jun said. Of course, I believe that Mr. Chu is a smart man and won't call the police. The masters around me can kill Faubert, so naturally, they can also kill your family silently. Although Peng Zhan was suspicious why Jun asked Lin Yi to pick up the hostages, he only had Lin Yi by his side. If Lin Yi didn't go, who else could he ask? Okay, I won't call the police. I hope you will keep your promise, Peng Zhan said. Don't worry, we kidnappers have our own rules. Just look at our professionalism, and you should believe that we are professionals. Jun said, the account number is XXXXX. Jun told him the account number, and after Peng Zhan wrote it down, he confirmed it with him before hanging up. After the threat, Jun believed that Peng Zhan wouldn't dare to call the police. With Ma Zhu's strength, Peng Zhan would definitely be afraid that he would take revenge on him. Peng Zhan was now an influential figure in Peng Zhan Industries, so no one dared to say anything when Peng Zhan mobilized the company's cash flow. However, the total cash flow was only 210 million. Of course, this was at the expense of the company's future operations. Peng Zhan Industries wouldn't have a single cent of liquid funds left once the 210 million was taken out. It would be a fatal blow to Peng Zhan Industries, but Peng Zhan didn't care about that. He was worried about his daughter's safety. Even if he had to resign from his position as chairman and give his shares to the shareholders as compensation, he didn't mind. Lin Yi didn't know much about business operations, but he did know what would happen if a company ran out of liquid funds. Uncle Chu, let me help you, Lin Yi said when Peng Zhan was about to withdraw all of the company's funds. You? Peng Zhan was slightly taken aback. He didn't know that Lin Yi and Fatty Lai had started a company, and Meng Yao didn't tell him either. He only thought that Lin Yi and Fatty Lai had a good relationship, but he didn't know that Lin Yi played a role in Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Lin Yi took out his phone and called Fatty Lai. Fatty Lai, how much cash do you have? Boss? Cash? Why are you suddenly asking this? What's wrong? What happened? Fatty Lai asked. It's an emergency, Lin Yi said. Cash, we can only get 30 to 40 million at most. All the money from the auction was used to buy the production line and build the factory. Our products aren't on the market yet, so most of the funds are stored in the warehouse for medicine. Fatty Lai explained. 40 million, that's too little. Lin Yi sighed. He didn't expect money to be so careless. Opening a medical company required so much investment. In fact, Fatty Lai also wanted to be the biggest medical company, and he bought the most advanced production line in the world. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company was different from Dr. Kang's medical company. Other than injury medicine, Miracle Dr. Guan would also release more advanced medicine such as painkillers. If it was possible, the pill of life extension and toxin cleansing could be mass-produced as well. That would require very advanced equipment, so Fatty Lai decided to get everything done in one go. According to the current calculations, 30 to 40 million in liquid funds was enough to successfully push Miracle Dr. Guan's first hit product, Miracle Dr. Guan's injury medicine, onto the market. 30 to 40 million wasn't even needed. Because of the poisoning of the first middle school students, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company's name had already spread far and wide. There was no need to advertise anymore. Once the product was put on the market and the sales increased, it could instantly generate hundreds of millions of profits. Lin Yi knew that Fatty Lai was planning according to the company's current situation. He probably didn't expect him to suddenly need money, so he didn't blame him. Boss, should I borrow some money from my brother? Fatty Lai could tell that Lin Yi was in a hurry, so he suggested. No need. Lin Yi knew that Fatty Lai and his brother weren't on good terms, so he rejected the suggestion. You have Lu Tiany's number, right? Give it to me. I'll borrow some from him. Yes, wait a moment. His number is 139, x times x times x. Fatty Lai gave a number to Lin Yi. Lin Yi remembered Lu Tiany's number and called him. Lu Tiany remembered Lin Yi's number, but Lin Yi didn't remember his number. Now that Lin Yi called, Lu Tianyi was shocked. He didn't expect Lin Yi to call him. As the young master of House Lu, Lu Tianyi naturally knew how important Lin Yi was to House Lu. It could be said that he had been thinking of ways to get close to Lin Yi, but he didn't have the chance. He had some conflict with Lin Yi before, and it could be said that their relationship wasn't that harmonious. After that, he offended Lin Yi because of his wife's nephew, Wu Chuntian. This caused the relationship between House Lu and Lin Yi to sink to a freezing point. Fortunately, he was humble and low profile, and that was how things got better. Lu Tianyi was filled with regret. If it weren't for his useless wife, he wouldn't have become enemies with Lin Yi. Seeing Lin Yi's pill of life extension and toxin cleansing become a hot item in the auction, and seeing his father turn from an old man on the verge of death into a healthy man, Lu Tianyi felt the importance of building a good relationship with Lin Yi. That was why he envied Lai Changyi. This fatty Lai was just a small businessman, and his business wasn't that big. But now, he had become Lin Yi's follower. He was so amazing. So amazing. Before, Lu Tianyi was polite when he spoke to Fatty Lai, but he still took the lead. But now, the two of them had swapped positions, and Lu Tianyi and Fatty Lai were talking very carefully. It couldn't be helped. His boss was amazing. Chapter 884. A changed mind. So, Lu Tianyi knew that if he wanted to keep in touch with Lin Yi, he couldn't cut off contact with Fatty Lai, especially when Fatty Lai wasn't that powerful yet. In a few years, House Lai might even become the #1 noble house. However, Lu Tianyi didn't expect Lin Yi to call him. Lu Tianyi took a deep breath and picked up the phone carefully. Hello, I'm Lu Tianyi. Mr. Lu? I'm Lin Yi. Can you lend me 100 million? Lin Yi didn't waste time and said directly, if you don't return it, I'll return you a pill or treat your family for free. Sure. It's just 100 million. Miracle Dr. Lin, if you want to use it, just take it. What do you mean by not returning it? Isn't it too vulgar to mention that? Lu Tianyi was just worrying about how to get closer to Lin Yi, and now Lin Yi called him to borrow money. Lu Tianyi was so happy that he could die. How could he not agree? As for whether Lin Yi would return the money or not, that was secondary. Building a good relationship with Lin Yi was the most important goal. Thank you in advance. I'll text you an account number, and you can transfer it to me, Lin Yi said. Okay, no problem. Lu Tianyi agreed quickly. These days, there weren't many people who begged others to borrow money, but Lu Tianyi was definitely one of them. He didn't even want Lin Yi to return the money. Lin Yi didn't say anything and hung up. Peng Zhan's eyes widened as he looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. When Lin Yi and Fatty Lai were on the phone, he heard it from the side. When he heard that Lin Yi wanted Lu Tianyi's number, he thought he heard it wrong. Who was Lu Tianyi? The young master of Yinjing's noble house. Lin Yi wanted to borrow money from him? Did he hear it wrong? However, after Lin Yi called Lu Tianyi, Peng Zhan realized that what he heard was the truth. Lin Yi really did borrow 100 million from Lu Tianyi, and it didn't take any effort or persuasion at all. The guy seemed to be very happy to lend the money to Lin Yi. Uncle Chu, I borrowed 100 million from Lu Tianyi first. Don't use all of the company's liquid funds. It'll affect the company's operations, Lin Yi said with a smile as he looked at the shocked Peng Zhan. Yinjing's house lose Lu Tianyi? Peng Zhan still couldn't believe it. That's him, Lin Yi nodded. Give me the account number. I'll have him transfer the money over. Peng Zhan took in a deep breath. He didn't think that Lin Yi would have been in Songshan for such a long time already. It was no wonder why he didn't put House Yu in his eyes back then, even daring to kill House Yu's men. As it turned out, Lin Yi borrowed 100 million from another noble house's young master in such a calm and unquestionable tone, and the guy was happy to lend it to him. With Lu Tianyi's 100 million, Peng Zhan easily transferred the remaining 150 million to the kidnapper's account number. About 10 minutes later, the kidnapper called again. It was still the same number that was full of zeros. Peng Zhan picked up the phone. Hello? Mr. Chu, you have a good reputation. The ransom isn't so quickly. Zhang Jun was a little excited. He didn't know that being a kidnapper had such a bright future. He got 250 million just like that. Even if his father worked hard as a pirate, he wouldn't be able to get that much money in a year. If he kidnapped more people in the future, wouldn't he have an endless amount of money? When can I see Yao Yao and Shu? Peng Zhan sighed in relief when he heard that the kidnapper didn't intend to go back on his words. Since Mr. Chu is so straightforward, how can I disappoint you? I'll tell you the address, and you can tell Linny to pick them up, Zhenning said. But I hope Mr. Chu remembers my words. Don't call the police, or you'll have to bear the consequences. No problem. I just hope that my daughter and Shu are safe, Peng Zhan said solemnly. South Mirror Mountain. There are 2 cars at the foot of the mountain, a Mercedes-Benz 600 and a Toyota Previa. Just get someone to follow the road in front of the 2 cars. Zhenning said. Okay, I'll remember it. Peng Zhan knew about South Mirror Mountain, but he didn't expect the kidnapper to bring his daughter to such a desolate place. It wouldn't be easy to find them with just the police force. Zhenning didn't say anything else and hung up the phone. He was waiting for Lin Yi to come and give Lin Yi a fatal blow, making him stay in South Mirror Mountain forever. He got the money, but the hatred between Zhenning and Lin Yi hadn't been resolved yet. How much did this guy make him suffer? He must make him pay back 10 times, 100 times. South Mirror Mountain. Lin Yi, they specifically asked you to bring Yao Yao and Shu back. Peng Zhan hesitated and said to Lin Yi, I feel like they're plotting something. Otherwise, why didn't they just release Yao Yao and Shu directly? Why did they ask you to go? Maybe they want to deal with me. Lin Yi said indifferently, if I'm not wrong, I already know who did this. Who?
Peng Zhan froze and asked.
Zhenning. Lin Yi said, it can't be House Yu. From what I can see, it can only be House Shen. House Shen? House Shen of Donghai? Zhendazhou? Since when did you guys offend someone like that? Peng Zhan paused. He didn't have any interactions with Zhendazhou, let alone any grudges. Lin Yi briefly told Peng Zhan about what happened in the billiard room that day and how Zhenning lusted after Meng Yao and Yushu, as well as how Zhenning punished him after they left. Peng Zhan shook his head and smiled bitterly. He didn't blame Lin Yi because, strictly speaking, it was Yushu's fault, and it had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Lin Yi, you're saying that other than money, they also want to deal with you? Peng Zhan thought for a while and said seriously, that should be the case. Although Shu asked me to do it, I'm the one who carried it out. Zhenning might hate me to the core. That master is probably waiting for me on the mountain. Lin Yi shrugged. It's far from the city. No one will notice if something happens there. It's a good place to kill. Chapter 885. Moving separately, this was obviously a trap. Since they saw through it, how could they go in? Ha, Uncle Chu, you're thinking the wrong way. I mean, there's no one there. It's perfect for me to kill them. Lin Yi smiled and said casually, Oh, you're confident? Peng Zhan paused after hearing Lin Yi's words. Yes, Lin Yi nodded and said confidently. In fact, he didn't. However, he couldn't ignore Meng Yao and Yushu. He only said that to reassure Peng Zhan. Lin Yi could only take it one step at a time. There was no one in Songshan who could help him, and the enemy had masters. Lin Yi could only face them alone. That's good. Peng Zhan didn't suspect anything. Seeing Lin Yi's confidence, he finally relaxed. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to handle it. I'm relieved now. Haha, time is of the essence. Uncle Chu, I'll leave first. Lin Yi didn't say much and walked towards the door. Woof woof. General Weiwu barked twice behind Lin Yi. Lin Yi's footsteps paused for a moment. He smiled and waved at General Weiwu. Come with me. Wasn't this a ready-made helper? Who would have thought that a dog was a golden-class dog? It was a wolf in sheep's clothing. Even if Lin Yi brought a dog to Nanjingzi Mountain, he didn't go against Zhang suggestion. Only Lin Yi could go alone, because the other person wasn't a human, but a dog. General Weiwu wagged its tail excitedly and followed Lin Yi. Peng Zhan naturally didn't know that General Weiwu had turned into a golden-class dog. He thought that Lin Yi brought General Weiwu with him to make it easier for him to find Meng Yao. Just like last time at Mount Shuangyan, Lin Yi brought General Weiwu with him to track Meng Yao's scent. Lin Yi got on Yushu's yellow beetle and set the GPS to Nanjingzi Mountain. The man and dog made their way there. On Ling Shan's side, with Lin Yi's rejection, she naturally couldn't do anything. The other party was obviously a master, and she didn't know if she'd be helping or causing trouble. Since Lin Yi said he didn't need her, she could only wait anxiously in the police station. Fortunately, Peng Zhan hadn't pressured the police through anyone, and there was no news of him at all after he returned. South Mirror's Mountain. This was the first time Lin Yi came to this place. He didn't know there was such a mountain near Songshan. The foot of the mountain was very desolate. There were no houses and no buildings. There were only some fire prevention slogans and warning signs that it was dangerous to go up the mountain. Not far from the mountain road, 2 cars stopped. It was the 2 cars that Jining Jun mentioned. Linny got off the car and patted General Wei Wu's head. We'll split up later and act according to the situation, understand? After General Wei Wu leveled up, it understood human nature better. It nodded, but Linny wasn't sure if it really understood. Before it leveled up, Linny already felt that this dog wasn't simple. It wasn't a normal dog, and now, he felt that this dog's IQ was even higher than before. The steep mountain road was nothing to Lin Yi, let alone General Wei Wu. It didn't even walk on the mountain road. Instead, it jumped around the trees and rocks on the side of the road and disappeared quickly. Linny arrived at the top of the mountain and saw a few people in the open space at the top of the mountain. One of them was Jining Jun. Beside him was a middle-aged man in a white robe. He was tall and strong like a pillar. Behind Jining Jun were 2 bodyguards in black. On the left and right of the bodyguards were Meng Yao and Yu Shu. Both of their hands and feet were tied up. However, Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that the 2 of them weren't hurt. Linny, you're finally here. Wahahaha. Jining Jun wasn't an idiot. He had men lying in ambush at the foot of the mountain to see if Lin Yi came alone. He was afraid that Lin Yi would bring a team of police with him. That would be troublesome. Although Jining Jun was arrogant and had masters around him, he couldn't let his men have a gunfight with the police, could he? Wasn't that asking for death? If that happened, he would have to give up on killing Lin Yi and kill Meng Yao, and Yu Shu to vent his anger. At the back of the mountain, Jining Jun had already prepared a helicopter. Even if the police surrounded the mountain, he could still escape. The police wouldn't think that he had a helicopter as a backup. By the time the police called for backup, he would be long gone. Jindajo's men were in the pirate business. How could they not have a helicopter as an escape tool? Jining Jun had all the necessary equipment, and that was the reason why he dared to wait for Linny here. However, when Jining Jun received a call from his men at the foot of the mountain, he heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like he was too careful. Linny came alone without any backup or police. As for the dog beside Lin Yi, Jining Jun automatically filtered it out. It was just a dog. What was there to worry about? Heh, it's really you, Jining Jun. Linny shrugged. It seemed like he was right. Things weren't as simple as he thought. His coming here was probably part of Jining Jun's plan. Therefore, Lin Yi entered a state of alertness. Oh, you're pretty smart. You guessed it was me? Jining Jun paused for a moment before laughing out loud. Ha 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 ha. Since you guessed it was me, how dare you come alone? Are you stupid? Are you stupid? You're really stupid. It was no wonder that Jining Jun was so happy. From his point of view, Lin Yi was an idiot. Since he guessed that he kidnapped Meng Yao and Yu Shu, he still dared to come and pick up the hostages, especially alone. If he wasn't an idiot, then he was too arrogant. Are you saying that I'm smart or stupid? Are you contradicting yourself? Linny couldn't help but laugh. Are you stupid or am I stupid? Meng Yao and Yu Shu were both here. Linny made up his mind and started to think of a plan. Ever since he came to the top of the mountain, the Jade had been warning him non-stop. This meant that the mountain was full of danger, and Lin Yi didn't know where the danger was. Chapter 886. A sudden turn of events. Humph. Don't be so quick with your words. Jining Jun sneered. Lin Yi, I will return the humiliation you made me suffer 10 times, 100 times more. As he finished speaking, Jining Jun made a hand gesture, and the warning signal on Lin Yi's chest suddenly became urgent. This position was dangerous, and Lin Yi dodged instinctively. A bullet brushed past him. It was a gun with a silencer. The bullet surprised Lin Yi. He didn't think that Jining Jun would use a gun against him. Lin Yi guessed that Jining Jun wanted to rely on the master to kill him. However, a few bullets couldn't hurt Lin Yi at all. Since Lin Yi was on guard, he wouldn't let the bullets hit him. One bullet missed, and following that, a series of bang, bang, bang sounded. It was like a bamboo tube popping beans. Countless bullets flew towards Lin Yi's direction. So many people? Lin Yi didn't think that Jining Jun would have so many people waiting for him with guns. He was definitely a strong opponent. Although Jining Jun looked arrogant, he was different from Zhong Pingliang and Zhao Qibing. He knew how to use a sea of guns. If Lin Yi didn't break through to Mystic class and was still in the late phase of Golden class, he wouldn't be able to dodge so many bullets. However, Lin Yi had already advanced to Mystic class and relied on his agile skills and unique footwork from when he was an assassin. He barely dodged the first round of bullets. Continue shooting. Shoot, shoot, shoot. Shoot him to death. Jining Jun saw that Lin Yi narrowly dodged a round of bullets and he was instantly enraged. You bunch of idiots. You can't even kill one person with so many guns? Jining Jun was quite a distance away from Lin Yi, and he wasn't worried that Lin Yi would rush over, so he spoke without restraint. After all, even if Lin Yi rushed over, he still had Ma Zhu with him. Bang, bang, bang. The dull gunshot sounded again, but this time, there was an accident. Ouch! Accompanied by the muffled sound of the bullets, a scream was suddenly heard. A gunman who had been lying in ambush instantly flew out from behind the rock he was hiding in and fell to the ground. His body twitched twice, and a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Then, he could no longer move. The sudden turn of events left everyone dumbfounded for a moment. Jining Jun was dumbfounded. Ma Zhu was dumbfounded, and the two bodyguards were dumbfounded. The snipers lying in ambush were also dumbfounded. They didn't expect their partner who was lying in ambush to suddenly fly into the air. With a swoosh, he flew out from behind the rock as if there was a spring under his butt and fell to the ground. No one knew if he was dead or alive. However, just as they were wondering what was going on, an accident happened again. Ouch! Another scream. Another gunman who was lying in ambush completed his dream of pretending to be a Superman. With a swoosh, he flew out and fell to the ground. This time, he didn't even twitch and fainted. No one knew if he was dead or alive. What's going on? What's going on? Lin Yi, did you bring someone? Jining Jun's face instantly showed vigilance. No matter how stupid he was, he knew that an accident happened, and this accident must have something to do with Lin Yi. I didn't. Lin Yi shook his head. I really didn't bring anyone. You told me to come alone, so I came alone. This. Jining Jun heard Lin Yi's confidence and was taken aback. It wasn't that he didn't believe Lin Yi. After all, it didn't matter if Lin Yi admitted that he brought someone else or not. Both parties had already started fighting, and Lin Yi had no reason to lie to him. However, Lin Yi said that he didn't bring anyone. This made Jining Jun confused. Just as Jining Jun was puzzled, another gun squad member who was lying in ambush turned into a flying man and flew out with a whoosh, falling to the ground like a corpse. The enemy has helpers. They don't seem to be human. Ma Zhu frowned as he said word by word. He was a master of physical attacks and defense, but his eyesight wasn't good. He only made his judgment based on the current signs. Young Master Jun, why don't we retreat a little? It's a little dangerous here. A bodyguard beside Jining Jun suggested carefully. Okay. Jining Jun was a little scared and didn't dare to show off anymore. He retreated behind Meng Yao and Yushu, using them as his shield. Meng Yao and Yushu were actually very excited when they saw Lin Yi coming to save them. Although Meng Yao felt that it was dangerous for Lin Yi to come here, she suddenly felt relieved when she saw Lin Yi. That feeling was as if she found someone she could rely on. She was no longer afraid and nervous. It was a good and warm feeling. However, Meng Yao and Yushu didn't know that Jining Jun had a gunman lying in ambush nearby. They were brought out from the cave before Lin Yi came. So, when they heard the gunshots, they were shocked. They even forgot to scream and forgot that they were in danger. They looked at Lin Yi nervously. They wanted Lin Yi to be careful, but they were afraid that Lin Yi would be distracted, so they chose to stay silent. When they saw that Lin Yi successfully dodged the bullets, Meng Yao and Yushu heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that Lin Yi was quite powerful. Jining Jun thought that he could kill Lin Yi with a gun? It was impossible. Then, Meng Yao and Yushu saw Jining Jun's men flying out from their hiding places one by one and falling to the ground. They were as surprised as Jining Jun, but a strange light flashed across Meng Yao's eyes. Shu, it looks like General Weiwu? Meng Yao whispered to Yushu with uncertainty. Oh? Yushu heard Meng Yao's words and rubbed her eyes in disbelief. What the hell? You're influenced by the company you keep. General Weiwu has been with Shield Bro for a long time and has become so fierce. He's almost like a shield dog. Chapter 887. The general is powerful. Another member of the firearm team flew out and fell to the ground dead. The situation was too horrifying. There was no warning at all. One by one, the members of the firearm team died, and it finally ignited their fear. They were a group of pirates who lived on the edge of a knife, and they were in the business of putting their lives on the line. They weren't afraid of death, but they were afraid of dying for no reason. What was going on? Linny was still standing there without moving, and a few of his men had died. Therefore, the firearm team went crazy and started shooting at Lin Yi. They thought that it was Lin Yi's doing, and as long as they killed Lin Yi, everything would be solved. Bang, bang, bang. Gunshots sounded everywhere, but there were still people who flew out from their hiding spots and died. Wah! Shoot him! Beat him to death! Zhang Yingjun roared in anger. What the hell is this? Linny, what the hell did you do? Lin Yi's lips curved into a cold smile. Firearm team? Just wait for your death. Since you're lying in ambush here, you should be prepared to die. However, although Linny was disdainful of the firearm team, he didn't let his guard down. These people had gone crazy and started shooting randomly. Some of them were afraid that the curse of death would find them, so they started shooting everywhere. As he dodged the bullets, he moved closer to Meng Yao and Yushu as fast as he could. He was afraid that these people would hurt the two girls in their frenzy. I'll kill you. Zhang Wushan was a small leader in the firearm team, but he was on the verge of a mental breakdown. He didn't know what to do as he watched his comrades die one by one, especially when his brother, Zhang Wuyu, fell to the ground and died. Zhang Wushan was completely insane. He didn't care about hiding anymore and jumped out from his hiding spot. He held his gun and started shooting randomly. He lost his mind and couldn't differentiate between friend and foe. He even shot at Zhang Yingjun's direction. Zhang Yingjun was shocked and quickly hid behind Meng Yao and Yushu. As Zhang Wushan's gun sounded, Linny frowned. He didn't care about anything else and ran towards Meng Yao and Yushu. This was because Zhang Wushan's shot was aimed at Meng Yao's direction. With his current shooting angle, he would definitely hit the miss if there were no accidents. Lin Yi didn't have time to warn Meng Yao as her hands and feet were tied up. It was impossible for her to run away. Lin Yi gritted his teeth and jumped in front of Meng Yao. At the same time, a bullet pierced into Lin Yi's thigh. Damn! Lin Yi sweated. Why was it still this part? Last time in the bank, he was shot in the thigh and Lin Yi was very embarrassed when he went to the hospital to get the bullet removed. He didn't expect it to be in the same position again. Ah! Meng Yao screamed. She also realized that Lin Yi was shot. He took a bullet for her. Last time in the bank, it was the same Lin Yi who was shot next to the miss, but Meng Yao didn't feel anything special at that time. But now, why did her heart hurt so much? Meng Yao felt as if the bullet had hit her heart, and it was a heart-wrenching feeling. Lin Yi, how are you? Meng Yao wanted to touch Lin Yi's injury, but her hands and feet were tied, and she couldn't move. It's so touching, Yao Yao sis. Shield Bro took a bullet for you. You have to repay him with your body when you go back. Yushu sighed. Repay him with my body? Don't talk nonsense at a time like this. Didn't you see that Lin Yi was shot? Meng Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry after hearing Yushu's words. She didn't know if it was because she was avoiding the question or because she was worried about Lin Yi's injury. Either way, she didn't want to talk about repaying him with her body. But Meng Yao was thinking, would she do it if Lin Yi really asked her to repay him with her body? Would she? It seemed like she would. How was that possible? Oh, Shield Bro is a doctor. It's not a big deal. Yushu was calm in the face of danger. She saw that Lin Yi was still standing, and there was nothing wrong with Lin Yi. He didn't even have a muscle after being shot. She knew that Lin Yi would be fine. Lin Yi was indeed fine. It was just a bullet. Yushu was right, Lin Yi was a doctor. After all, he'd chosen the spot the moment he'd blocked the bullet, avoiding bones and arteries, so the bullet was stuck in the muscle. It didn't matter if he didn't take it out for now. Otherwise, Lin Yi wouldn't have followed the robbers to the car and snatched their gun when he was shot. However, Lin Yi didn't have the time to think about his injury. He shook his right hand, and a silver needle appeared between his fingers. Zhang Wushan was crazy, and Lin Yi had to get rid of him as soon as possible. Lin Yi didn't expect Zhang Yingjuan's men to be so mentally weak. They were already scared out of their wits. Actually, it wasn't that the firearms team's mental fortitude was bad. They had been killing people at sea all day, and their guts had long been trained to be bigger than a basketball. It was just that today's situation was too strange. They weren't afraid of being hacked to death with a knife, and they weren't afraid of being shot in the head, but this kind of flying man style of death was the first time they had seen it. It was too scary. Lin Yi wanted to kill Zhang Wushan, but before he could shoot out the silver needle, General Wei Wu jumped out and agilely jumped behind Zhang Wushan. Its four legs stamped on Zhang Wushan's back, and Zhang Wushan was sent flying like his comrade. He fell to the ground and died on the spot. Yao sis, General Wei Wu is so awesome. Yushu knew that General Wei Wu was the one who killed the firearms team, but she was still shocked when she saw it with her own eyes. Meng Yao widened her eyes and looked at the General Wei Wu she raised for 10 years. How could it be like this? Why didn't she realize that General Wei Wu had such a powerful side? It seemed like it was different after Lin Yi healed it last time. Zhang Yingjun finally understood how his men died. They were kicked to death by a dog? Wasn't this world too crazy? Chapter 888. Your opponent is Mima. Zhu had been a famous master for a long time, but he had never heard of a dog that could cultivate, let alone reach the golden class. Was this still a dog? The rest of the members finally knew what attacked them. They all turned their guns from Lin Yi to General Wei Wu, but General Wei Wu's target was smaller than Lin Yi. It jumped left and right to the back of another member. In the end, before the flintlock member could react, he was tragically shot dead by his comrades' random shots. Before he died, he didn't understand why he wasn't kicked to death by a dog, but was killed by his comrade. Did they treat him as a dog? General Wei Wu did the same thing, jumping left and right nimbly. Thus, a few more members of the firearms squad died under the muzzle of their comrades, and the few that survived were kicked to death by General Wei Wu. Master Ma, kill that dog. Kill it now. Zhang Yingjun screamed in horror. He didn't expect a dog to be so powerful that it could kill people with a kick. Ma Zhu nodded and took a step forward, ready to kill General Wei Wu. However, Lin Yi blocked in front of Ma Zhu. Your opponent is me. Lin Yi looked at Ma Zhu and said calmly. He couldn't see through Ma Zhu's strength. A physical master's strength wasn't determined by the amount of energy they had. They increased their level through training their body, so Lin Yi couldn't know how strong his body was. Move, you are not my opponent. Ma Zhu glanced at Lin Yi and said in disdain. Why don't we try and find out? Lin Yi smiled. Perhaps you are right. I am not your opponent, but when I fight a monster above my level, I can occasionally get a critical hit. What critical hit? Ma Zhu obviously didn't understand Lin Yi's words. Since you want to die first, then I will fulfill your wish. Ma Zhu was annoyed. He knew that the members of the firearms team were equally important to his boss. Although they worked for House Shun, most of the money they earned flowed into his boss's pocket every year. Therefore, Ma Zhu wanted to kill General Wei Wu first to stop it from killing people, but Lin Yi didn't give him the chance. Anger surged in Ma Zhu's heart, but he also knew that it was impossible to save the members of the firearms team. Ma Zhu stared at Lin Yi, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Since he couldn't save the firearms team, then he would vent his anger on Lin Yi's life. In an instant, Ma Zhu's aura was raised to the extreme, but a physical master's aura was much weaker than a spiritual master's. The energy on Lin Yi's body was released at this moment as well. The aura of a mystic early phase peak was even stronger than Ma Zhu, who was a mystic mid-phase peak physical master. Peak of the middle phase of the mystic division? Lin Yi knew that he couldn't pretend to be weak today. His opponent's strength was one level higher than his. How could he pretend to be weak? Although spiritual masters were always stronger than physical masters of the same level, that was only limited to the same level. Even if a spiritual master of the peak of the early phase of the mystic division fought against a physical master of the middle phase of the mystic division, it would still be very difficult. But if a spiritual master of the peak of the early phase of the mystic division fought against a physical master of the middle phase of the mystic division, then the chance of winning would be even lower. This was the situation that Lin Yi was in right now. Lin Yi had never met a master who was so much stronger than him. His face was very serious as he stared at Ma Zhu. He was already in battle mode. Peak of the early phase of the mystic division, Ma Zhu saw Lin Yi's strength and was surprised. Although you're stronger than Li Fu, that old thing, it's useless. Today, you're dead. As he spoke, Ma Zhu moved. Both his feet stomped on the ground, and both his palms pressed towards Lin Yi's chest. He trained his defense first and then his attack, so he basically didn't have any moves to speak of. It was a completely head-on stance, and all the weak points on his body were exposed, but he didn't care at all. Lin Yi's face darkened. He didn't dare to take a palm from a physical master of the peak of the middle phase of the mystic division. Ma Zhu's stance also made Lin Yi confused. What kind of fighting style was this? It was a stance that didn't care about his life. He only cared about attacking and didn't even know how to protect his acupuncture points. Wasn't he afraid that he would ambush him? But before Lin Yi figured out Ma Zhu's fighting style, he didn't dare to make any moves. As Ma Zhu's palms approached, Lin Yi quickly retreated and barely dodged Ma Zhu's attack. Coward! Ma Zhu saw that Lin Yi actually dodged and ran, and he couldn't help but sneer. His tall figure suddenly turned into a black shadow again and rushed towards Lin Yi. As expected of a physical master of the peak of the middle phase of the mystic division. Before Ma Zhu's figure even arrived, the strong wind that he brought up already made Lin Yi's face hurt. Lin Yi frowned. Just dodging wasn't a solution, but Lin Yi didn't dare to fight Ma Zhu head-on. Ma Zhu's strength had already been proven by Faubert. Lin Yi's brain was working quickly to think of a countermeasure. Go to hell. Ma Zhu saw that Lin Yi kept retreating, and he felt great. He roared, turned his palms into fists, and punched towards Lin Yi again. He couldn't dodge anymore. Lin Yi knew that dodging wouldn't solve the problem. Therefore, this time, Lin Yi didn't dodge. Instead, he stood where he was, as if waiting for Ma Zhu to take his punch. Ma Zhu sneered, as if he could already see Lin Yi being beaten into a pile of mush by him. I'm not afraid of you not attacking. I'm afraid that you'll keep dodging. Ma Zhu knew his own strength. He wasn't afraid that Lin Yi would ambush him, but he was afraid that Lin Yi would play hide and seek with him. He was already a practitioner of the 8th level of the Golden Shield, and his bones were as hard as steel. Normal methods couldn't do anything to him, unless he could find his weak spot and break it. However, how could a normal person find his weak spot? Even his boss didn't know about Ma Zhu's weak spot, let alone Lin Yi. Ma Zhu didn't dare to be careless against a master of a higher level, but against an opponent like Lin Yi who was one level lower than him. Ma Zhu wasn't afraid at all. It didn't matter if it was an internal style or an external style. As long as the opponent wasn't strong to a certain extent, it wouldn't be able to cause any damage to Ma Zhu's body. Of course, Lin Yi didn't know that Ma Zhu was a practitioner of the Golden Shield. If he knew, he wouldn't have taken the risk. Chapter 889. Between a rock and a hard place, Ma Zhu was strong, but he wasn't fast enough. This was the conclusion that Lin Yi came to after observing Ma Zhu's 2 attacks. Qinggong was one of Lin Yi's strengths, so Lin Yi decided to use a sneak attack to get rid of Ma Zhu. Fight head-on? That was just to trick Ma Zhu. If he really fought head-on with Ma Zhu, then Lin Yi would be looking for death. Haha, die. Ma Zhu was proud of himself and thought that his fist was about to land on Lin Yi, but he suddenly realized that Lin Yi had disappeared. Ma Zhu was stunned. Huh? Where is he? Here. Lin Yi's words were followed by a loud bang. Lin Yi's fist landed on Ma Zhu's back. Lin Yi used all his strength in these 2 punches. He didn't hold back his strength at all. His goal was to heavily injure Ma Zhu. If Ma Zhu was an Earth-class master, then Lin Yi's attack would at most cause a light injury. But the 2 of them were only 1 level apart. Although Lin Yi couldn't kill Ma Zhu with all his strength, he would probably injure him badly. This was Lin Yi's strategy. He would ambush Ma Zhu a few more times, and he wouldn't believe that he couldn't kill him. Although Ma Zhu was strong, wouldn't it be fine as long as he didn't fight head-on with him? Master once said that if the enemy was stronger than you, then you should avoid them and ambush them when they least expect it. The rules of the martial world were all nonsense to an assassin. The ultimate goal of an assassin was to kill the enemy, not to talk about the rules of the martial world. Lin Yi's fists landed heavily on Ma Zhu's back, but Lin Yi's face turned extremely ugly at this moment, because Lin Yi felt that his fists seemed to have hit an iron plate, as if he wasn't hitting a human body. Moreover, the recoil from the iron plate was enough to make Lin Yi choke. A mouthful of blood spurted out from Lin Yi's mouth. Obviously, a portion of the force from the previous attack had rebounded back to his body. However, even though he was surprised, Lin Yi's feet didn't stop. After the attack, Lin Yi quickly retreated. As expected, just as Lin Yi dodged, Ma Zhu swung his fist and turned around, but he missed. "Kid, you're pretty fast, huh?" Ma Zhu laughed. "How is it? You must be feeling great right now, right? TSK, you even vomited blood. Looks like your punch was quite powerful, but you didn't expect that you would suffer the consequences of your own actions, right? Ha 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 ha." Lin Yi looked at Ma Zhu in shock and frowned in disbelief. At this moment, Ma Zhu didn't look like he was injured at all. Looking at him, it was as if the two punches weren't aimed at him. You're not injured?" Lin Yi took a deep breath and stabilized his body. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He went for wool and came home shorn. Most of the force that hit Ma Zhu returned to his own body. "There's no harm in telling you. My golden bell shield is already at level 8. Ma Zhu looked at Lin Yi mockingly. "I'm not afraid of you hitting me. If I hit you, you'll definitely die. How is it? Fun, right? Wahahaha. What can you do?" Golden Bell Shield level 8. No wonder. Lin Yi came to a realization. No wonder Ma Zhu was fine after he hit him, and he was the one who got hurt. He was a practitioner of Golden Bell Shield. There weren't many practitioners like him because it was a tough process before mastering Golden Bell Shield. The practitioner's mind and bones had to be exhausted, and he had to suffer a lot of pain. If he didn't have a strong mind, he wouldn't be able to master Golden Bell Shield. Jin Ingjun saw Lin Yi retreating and vomiting blood. He immediately cheered happily. "Master Ma is awesome. Master Ma is awesome. Kill this kid." Meng Yao and Yu Shu, on the other hand, held their breaths. In their hearts, Lin Yi was invincible, but Lin Yi actually vomited blood. And it was when Lin Yi was attacking someone. He wasn't even attacked. That's a little strange. However, although Meng Yao and Yu Shu found it strange, they knew that Ma Zhu was definitely stronger than Lin Yi, because Ma Zhu didn't seem to be injured at all. Lin Yi. Meng Yao saw that Lin Yi was injured, and she couldn't bear to see him injured. There was a gunshot wound on his leg. Meng Yao knew that if Lin Yi didn't come to save her, he wouldn't be injured and wouldn't need to fight with Ma Zhu. Why did he protect her so much? Was it because of the 30,000 yuan salary? He didn't have to do this. Huh. Lin Yi smiled at the miss and wiped the blood on the corner of his mouth. "Wait for me to kill him, then I'll bring you home." In an instant, Meng Yao's eyes were wet and tears flowed out uncontrollably. He was always so nice to her. Meng Yao nodded hard. "Let's go home together." "Kill me? That's ridiculous." Ma Zhu snorted at Lin Yi's words. "I'll stand here and let you hit me. Can you kill me?" Lin Yi looked at Ma Zhu alertly and thought of a countermeasure in his mind. It could be said that Ma Zhu was the strongest opponent Lin Yi met after he came to Songshan. Not only was he one level higher than him, he also practiced the Golden Shield. In other words, all attacks were useless against him. Unless Lin Yi was stronger than Ma Zhu, he wouldn't be his opponent at all. What should he do? Lin Yi fell into a dilemma. In the past, Lin Yi followed the principle of running away if he couldn't win. He didn't have any psychological burden because his master once said, "Where there's life, there's hope." However, Lin Yi couldn't leave today. If he left, what about the miss and Shu? Could Lin Yi leave them alone? Lin Yi couldn't. Lin Yi believed that if he left, with Ma Zhu's arrogant personality, he wouldn't let Meng Yao and Yu Shu go. And he didn't know what Jin Ingjun would do. Lin Yi silently chanted the art of dragon mastery in his mind to heal his internal injuries. However, because he didn't enter the jade space, the effect was minimal. "What? You don't want to fight? If you don't want to, I'll fight you." Ma Zhu laughed and attacked Lin Yi again. Before Ma Zhu could get close to him, Lin Yi moved away agilely again. However, his eyes were filled with anxiety. He couldn't go on like this. He couldn't keep fighting Ma Zhu like this, could he? Chapter 890. He was poisoned. It was impossible for Ma Zhu to kill him, but it was even more impossible for him to defeat Ma Zhu. Lin Yi didn't even dare to attack Ma Zhu now. It would be a waste of effort if he attacked him, and it would reflect back to him. Ma Zhu saw that Lin Yi was dodging here and there, but he wasn't angry at all. He only laughed coldly, jumping up and down. What's the difference between you and that dog? If you have the guts, then keep jumping. On the other side, General Wei Wu had successfully killed all the members of the firearm team. He wagged his tail and ran over, wanting to help Lin Yi. Go protect Yao Yao and Shu. You can't handle this place, Lin Yi ordered General Wei Wu. In this place, even Lin Yi couldn't do anything to Ma Zhu, let alone General Wei Wu. General Wei Wu heard Lin Yi's words and quickly came to Meng Yao and Yu Shu's side. He used his teeth to bite off the ropes on them. Lin Yi looked at Meng Yao and Yu Shu. He was relieved after seeing that the ropes on them were untied. While he was dodging Ma Zhu, he shouted to Meng Yao, Yao Yao, leave with Shu and General Wei Wu first. But, Lin Yi, Meng Yao was worried about Lin Yi. How could she leave him alone and leave by herself? You leave first. If you leave, I can run away any time. Lin Yi was panicking. After fighting with Ma Zhu for so long, he still couldn't do anything. Hee, they dare? Ma Zhu said confidently, if they dare to leave, I'll kill them first. You can dodge my attacks, but what about them? Ha 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 ha. Lin Yi frowned after hearing Ma Zhu's words. He could only give up on the idea of letting Meng Yao leave first. It seemed like Ma Zhu wasn't an idiot. He knew that after Meng Yao and Yu Shu left, there was no need for him to fight anymore. He would only stay here if Meng Yao and Yu Shu were here. However, there was nothing Lin Yi could do. Ma Zhu was right. He could totally leave and kill Meng Yao and Yu Shu right now because he wasn't afraid of his ambush. Lin Yi couldn't do anything to him at all. We'll wait for you. We'll go home together. Meng Yao heard Ma Zhu's words and let out a sigh of relief. She didn't want to leave first. Now that she couldn't leave, she felt relieved. Come on, shield bro. Beat the crap out of this idiot. Yu Shu joined in. Ma Zhu snorted coldly, but he didn't want to argue with the two little girls. What he wanted to do now was to kill Lin Yi. Brat, let's see if you will die this time. Dash, Lin Yi dodged Ma Zhu's attack again, but it was extremely dangerous. He was almost hit by Ma Zhu's attack. What was going on? Why did his reaction become so slow? Could it be that his stamina was depleted? That was impossible. How was this even possible? He wouldn't be depleted even after running for tens of thousands of meters. He only dodged a few attacks from Ma Zhu. How could he be depleted? Ka. Lin Yi's left shoulder was scratched by Ma Zhu's palm, and a piercing pain immediately spread throughout Lin Yi's entire shoulder. Instantly, Lin Yi saw his shoulder swollen. If he wasn't wrong, his bones had been fractured by Ma Zhu. Lin Yi looked at Ma Zhu in shock. What was going on? Why did his movement become so slow? He was actually hit by Ma Zhu. What was going on? How is it? It feels good, right? It's just that I didn't hit your vital parts. But it's okay. I have patience. You will slowly die from my torture. Ma Zhu looked at Lin Yi's swollen shoulder and revealed a sinister smile. Feels good, doesn't it? Lin Yi frowned. He felt that his steps were getting heavier and heavier. Lin Yi was always confident in his qinggong and stamina. But now, not only did his qinggong deteriorate, even his stamina was showing signs of exhaustion. Lin Yi knew something was wrong. If he continued like this, he would definitely die. He quickly started channeling the art of dragon mastery, checking his injuries. Wait! Suddenly, Lin Yi found something wrong with his body. Poison. He was poisoned. Lin Yi's face suddenly turned very bad. He thought of a possibility. The bullets were poisoned? Poison? Ma Zhu was slightly stunned. Obviously, he didn't know. Ha 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 ha. Zheng Yingjun suddenly laughed after hearing Lin Yi's words. He laughed happily. I thought you weren't afraid of poison. It didn't happen for so long, and I thought this poison was useless to cultivators like you. So it's just a delay. I was wondering why you became so stupid. It's because the poison is acting up. Wahaha. It's really poisonous. Lin Yi gritted his teeth and breathed heavily. He didn't expect Zhang Jun to be so cunning and smeared poison on the bullets. Master Ma, the poison is acting up. Kill him now. Zhang Jun didn't think there was anything wrong with what he did. From his point of view, killing Lin Yi was the most important goal. Moreover, he felt that he was extremely wise at this moment. If Lin Yi wasn't poisoned, Maju wouldn't be able to do anything to him if he jumped up and down. Although Maju was strong, Lin Yi's Qinggong was good, and he couldn't do anything to Lin Yi at the moment. But now that Lin Yi was poisoned, his movements had slowed down. Lin Yi's death, from his point of view, was only a matter of time before he died. Maju nodded. Although he despised the poisoning, it was annoying that the kid jumped around in front of him and dodged every attack. Therefore, it was a good thing that Lin Yi was poisoned. Was he going to die here today? Lin Yi gritted his teeth as he looked at the miss, then at Yushu. If he ran now, Lin Yi believed that Maju wouldn't be able to catch up with him. But what about Miss? But if he didn't leave, would Maju let Miss go after he killed him? He probably would, right? Otherwise, if Zhang Jun wanted to kill Ming Yao and Yushu, they would already be dead bodies before he arrived. But Zhang Jun didn't do that, which meant that he only wanted to kill him and not Ming Yao and Yushu. If he died, it would cause far less trouble than Ming Yao and Yushu. From Zhang Jun's point of view, he was only Ming Yao and Yushu's follower. It didn't matter if a follower died, but if Peng Zhan's daughter died, it would be a big deal. With that thought, Lin Yi calmed down. Chapter 891. Learn to take care of yourself. My golden bell shield is flawless, unless your level is higher than mine. You're already at the peak of the early phase of mystic division at such a young age. TSK, what a genius. Maybe you can surpass me in a few years, but I'm afraid you won't be able to see that day. This day next year will be the anniversary of your death. Higher level. Higher. Suddenly, a possibility flashed across Lin Yi's mind. Wait. Lin Yi suddenly smiled. He looked at Maju with a weird smile. He couldn't leave today, so even if he were to die, he would drag someone down with him. Yao Yao, Shu. Lin Yi turned around and looked at Ming Yao and Yushu. Ming Yao and Yushu also noticed that Lin Yi's smile was weird and didn't know what Lin Yi wanted to do. You have to learn to take care of yourself in the future. Lin Yi smiled. Ming Yao and Yushu paused, not understanding why Lin Yi would say something like that at a time like this. However, Lin Yi didn't explain. In the next moment, Lin Yi raised his head and looked at Maju. What a joke. He had been looking for Maju's weakness, but couldn't find it. He didn't expect Maju to expose his weakness in the end. What are you laughing at? Maju froze. Lin Yi's smile gave him goosebumps. Wahaha, Master Ma, this brat was preparing for his death. Zhang Jun suddenly laughed. He was the first to understand what Lin Yi meant. Ming Yao and Yushu immediately understood after Zhang Jun reminded them. Was Lin Yi preparing for his death? Lin Yi, go. Don't care about us, go. Ming Yao shouted at Lin Yi crazily. However, Lin Yi turned a deaf ear to him. A strange smile hung on his face, and his hands were in an extremely strange position. Tears blurred Ming Yao's vision. She didn't expect Lin Yi to die for her and Shu. The young lady shouted at Lin Yi hoarsely, "You idiot! I gave you 30,000 yuan, and you went to die. No wonder Zhang Jun called you an idiot, you big idiot." Yushu held Meng Yao's hand tightly, not saying a word. Although she was usually carefree, she was extremely anxious at this moment. Humph, it seems like you have some awareness. Maju laughed. Don't worry, go to hell. We won't touch those two little girls. We'll let them leave safely. Lin Yi didn't say anything. His hands were still in a very strange position. No one knew what he was doing. What? What do you mean by that? Do you still want to perform a heroic deed before you die? Maju looked at Lin Yi in confusion. His tone was filled with impatience. Lin Yi had worn out all his patience. He couldn't wait to kill Lin Yi in the next second. Heh, even if I die, I want to die in a grand way. I'm going to attack. The smile on Lin Yi's face slowly disappeared as he walked towards Ma Zhu step by step. Attack? Haha, all right, since you want to attack, no problem. Ma Zhu wasn't afraid of Lin Yi. As a master of the 8th level of the Golden Shield, he didn't put Lin Yi in his eyes at all. Heh. Lin Yi's movements suddenly sped up. He rushed towards Ma Zhu, but his hands were still in the strange position. Ma Zhu's lips curved into a mocking smile. Have you played too much Street Fighter? But I have to say, your move before you die looks pretty grand. As he spoke, Ma Zhu swung his right fist, ready to take Lin Yi's strange move. Grand. Maybe. What's even more grand is yet to come. Lin Yi's lips curved into a determined smile. He suddenly put his hands together and pushed them out. It looked like a move from Street Fighter. Haha. Ma Zhu's fist was about to hit Lin Yi's palms. He was about to hit Lin Yi. However, at this moment, something happened. A loud boom sounded like a detonator exploding between Ma Zhu and Lin Yi. Along with the earth-shattering sound of thunder, a strong heat wave pushed Lin Yi away. The huge explosion reverberated in the valley. Jiningjun was shocked, and Meng Yao and Yushu were also shocked speechless. The heat wave from the explosion made Meng Yao and Yushu breathless even though they were far away. Jiningjun was pushed to the ground by the heat wave. Although General Wei Wu was in a better condition than the three of them, he still stared blankly at the direction of the explosion. At the place where Lin Yi and Ma Zhu stood, dust flew everywhere. The sky was filled with flying sand and stones. They couldn't see what happened. The destructive energy shook the entire mountain. No one knew what happened. Jiningjun opened his mouth wide and stared at the place where the explosion happened. He hoped that it was the shock brought by Ma Zhu killing Lin Yi. However, Jiningjun didn't know why, but he felt that something was wrong. He felt that there was something wrong with this. How could Ma Zhu cause such a huge commotion? But if it wasn't Ma Zhu, was it Lin Yi? That was even more impossible, right? Yao Yao sis, where's Shield Bro? Will he be okay? Yushu stared at the scene of the explosion blankly. She sounded sad. Meng Yao didn't say anything. She didn't know what kind of feeling she had in her heart. Did it happen? Did it finally happen? Did Lin Yi die with his opponent? That was the only thought in Meng Yao's mind. Lin Yi's words seemed to be ringing in her ears, telling them to take care of themselves in the future. In the next moment, he disappeared? No. Meng Yao couldn't accept the reality in front of her. Lin Yi couldn't die. However, at this moment, Meng Yao lost her voice. She didn't know what to say, and she didn't know what to say. Things had exceeded her expectations. It was too much. She had never experienced a life and death parting like this. At this moment, her fragile heart was broken. The flying sand and pebbles that filled the sky finally dissipated slowly. The dust in the air also became lighter and lighter. Amidst the scattered pebbles, a figure stood upright. Although he was not tall, his entire body was emitting a formidable aura. His shirt had already been torn to shreds, and his exposed upper body was covered with streaks of blood. It was a ghastly sight. It seemed like a gust of wind could blow him down, but when the wind blew, the figure still stood straight. Chapter 892. Energy Bomb, huh? Meng Yao looked at the messy figure and laughed. Humph, I knew this guy wouldn't die. He's just a liar. Oh, Yao Yao sis, you don't mean what you said. You were so nervous just now. Yushu exposed Meng Yao's lie. Meng Yao glared at Yushu and ignored her. Jiningjun was dumbfounded. Where was Ma Zhu? Where did Ma Zhu go? A master with golden bell, shield at the peak of the middle phase of Mystic Division. How did he disappear all of a sudden? Jiningjun widened his eyes and searched the area. However, other than Lin Yi, Ma Zhu was nowhere to be seen. After a while, another figure climbed up from the ruins. This person was Ma Zhu. However, Ma Zhu looked horrifying at this moment. Half of his arm was completely gone, and his ribs were completely caved in. It could be said that the right half of his body had become a pile of rotten meat. Even the right side of his face was no longer recognizable. If it wasn't for the fact that there was no one else here, no one would be able to recognize that this person was Ma Zhu. Fresh blood flowed out of his wound, and his white bones could be vaguely seen. What the hell? That's amazing. He's not dead even after being blown up like this? Yushu was surprised at Ma Zhu's tenacious vitality. Ma Zhu's eyes were filled with astonishment. He no longer had the arrogance from before. He couldn't believe that he was actually injured, and it was so serious. It was too miserable. How was this possible? He was a master with the 8th level of Golden Bell Shield, and Lin Yi was only a spiritual master at the peak of the early phase of Mystic Division. How could he hurt him? Ma Zhu could proudly say that normal bullets wouldn't be able to hit him, but now he was injured, and it was a very serious injury. The right half of his body was blown up. His right arm was gone, and even his entire shoulder was gone. The right side of his face was a bloody mess, and his right leg was only left with white bones. He was barely able to stand up now. Impossible. Impossible. This can't be real. You can't hurt me. Ma Zhu couldn't believe it. He really couldn't. Idiot. Lin Yi glanced at Ma Zhu indifferently. I already told you that I was going to use my ultimate skill, but you didn't dodge it. Do you think you have a lot of HP? Impossible. This is impossible. Ma Zhu was going crazy. He couldn't accept the reality in front of him. Although Lin Yi looked to be in a sorry state, although Lin Yi had a lot of wounds on his body, he didn't lose an arm or a leg. As for himself, Ma Zhu couldn't accept it. His Golden Bell Shield's 8 layers were all destroyed in an instant. His many years of cultivation and his childhood dreams were all shattered at this moment. The body of a physical master was as important as the meridians of an internal master. Once the body was heavily injured, even if it recovered, it would be impossible to regain its previous strength. Especially for someone like Ma Zhu, whose entire body was blown to pieces, his Golden Bell Shield was completely broken. Even if the body recovered, the newly grown flesh and skin would be no different from before. It would be no different from an ordinary person. Even if there was a little bit of Golden Bell Shield left on the left side of his body, what use would it be? If he went out to fight, could he stop the enemy from attacking his right side? Lin Yi didn't bother with Ma Zhu anymore. He had to scare Ma Zhu and Jining Jun away as soon as possible. He knew his own strength. He was only able to stand up now with his last breath. His entire body was like a crossbow. The attack just now was the result of Lin Yi sucking out all the energy in his body, compressing it and releasing it in an instant. Lin Yi had tested this kind of energy bomb on Yukuin once, and it was quite effective. However, the amount of energy used to destroy Yukuin's meridians was far less than what he used today. This time, it was Lin Yi's crazy and risky decision. He had no other choice but to do it. Ma Zhu was a practitioner of the Golden Bell Shield. No matter what kind of attack Lin Yi used, it was useless against him. Even sneak attacks and assassinations were useless because Ma Zhu wasn't afraid of being attacked at all. Just when Lin Yi was anxious and helpless after being poisoned, Ma Zhu exposed his weakness and said something. Perhaps Ma Zhu didn't think there was anything wrong with what he said, but it gave Lin Yi a huge inspiration. Ma Zhu said that the Golden Bell Shield was flawless unless Lin Yi's level was higher than his. From Ma Zhu's perspective, Lin Yi's strength couldn't be higher than his. If Lin Yi was, he would have won a long time ago. However, Lin Yi didn't think so. Although his strength wasn't as high as Ma Zhu's, after the energy was compressed, the power it produced was multiplied. Ma Zhu had the Golden Bell Shield to protect his body. Lin Yi couldn't use the energy to destroy Ma Zhu's internal organs and meridians like what he did to Yukuin. He could only use a bigger explosion of energy to destroy Ma Zhu's body. Lin Yi wasn't sure if this method would work, and he wasn't sure what kind of negative consequences it would bring to him. This was because even if he quickly retreated the moment he released the energy, the remaining energy from the explosion could still affect him. In order to injure Ma Zhu, Lin Yi had no choice but to use the last bit of energy in his body. With the thought of success or failure, he released the scariest energy bomb in history. Fortunately, he succeeded. Ma Zhu was crippled by the explosion. His Golden Bell Shield was directly destroyed by his own energy. However, even so, the defense of Ma Zhu's Golden Bell Shield still made Lin Yi speechless. Lin Yi knew clearly how powerful the energy bomb was. There was a deep pit in front of them. The cut was smooth and straight as if it was cut by a sharp sword. The rock was like that, but Ma Zhu was only injured and not dead. Lin Yi didn't know if Ma Zhu still had the ability to fight, but he knew that he didn't. If it wasn't for his strong willpower, he wouldn't be able to last until now, let alone stand up. However, he had to stand up and pretend that he wasn't injured. He had to scare Ma Zhu and Zhang Jun away. Otherwise, he, Meng Yao, and Yu Shu would all be in danger. So, Lin Yi ignored Ma Zhu and turned to Zhang Jun. He said coldly, "Now, it's your turn." Chapter 893. How about juice? Don't come near me. Zhang Jun stepped back subconsciously. Suddenly, he saw Meng Yao and Yu Shu from the corner of his eyes. He quickly pulled out a gun from his waist and sprinted over, aiming at Meng Yao. "Don't come over. Surrender now, or I'll kill her." Lin Yi was stunned. He didn't expect Zhang Jun to react so violently. He must be scared out of his wits. Lin Yi couldn't help but smile bitterly. Did he overshoot himself? He wanted to scare Zhang Jun and ask him to leave with Ma Zhu so that he could find a place to heal himself. He didn't expect Zhang Jun to threaten Meng Yao with a gun instead. Bang! A muffled sound was followed by a heart-wrenching scream. It wasn't a gunshot, but the sound of bodies colliding. In the next moment, Zhang Jun's gun fell to the ground. He covered his crotch with both hands, his eyes popped out, and he panted heavily as he screamed in pain. "Yeah." Yu Shu made a V shape with her hand and clapped. "I'm so good. I kicked Zhang Jun into a real eunuch." Yu Shu used all her strength in her kick, and Zhang Jun was in a tragedy. He didn't expect a weak girl to attack him first. Wasn't she afraid that he would shoot? However, he was in so much pain that he couldn't ask the question. Meng Yao smiled, but she still felt that Yu Shu was too reckless. "Shu, aren't you afraid that he will shoot me? You are so brave. How are you going to be the mistress if I die?" "Oh, Yao sis, you finally decided to marry me?" Yu Shu said happily. "He can't kill you because he didn't turn on the safety. I observed him before I kicked him." "How did you know?" Meng Yao was surprised. She didn't expect Shu to be so reckless. She did it after observing him carefully. "My brother brought me to the army to play with guns." Yu Shu picked up Zhang Jun's gun on the ground. "Look, Yao sis, the safety is here. Don't move, the gun might go off by accident." Meng Yao said worriedly to Yu Shu. "Throw it away." Yu Shu pulled the trigger just as Meng Yao finished her sentence. "Oh." Yu Shu stuck her tongue out as she tossed the gun to the ground. "It really did go off, ouch." Zhang Jun rolled his eyes and almost cried. He'd been hoping that Yu Shu's kick wouldn't cause him any serious internal injuries, and he'd just have to get Yao Wang to take a look at him. Maybe he'd be able to recover, but Yu Shu had shot him in the crotch. That hope had been dashed to smithereens. The gun was fired by accident, and it was quite accurate. Although Ma Zhu's body was in pain, he couldn't watch Yu Shu kill Zhang Jun. His boss told him to protect him. He couldn't run away alone. With that thought, Ma Zhu gritted his teeth and flew over. He picked up Zhang Jun and glared at Lin Yi with hatred before quickly descending the mountain. Ma Zhu didn't know why Lin Yi didn't kill Zhang Jun. It was probably the same reason why Zhang Jun didn't dare to kill Meng Yao and Yu Shu. With that thought, he was relieved. At least Lin Yi wouldn't chase after them. He didn't know that Lin Yi couldn't kill him even if he wanted to now. Just as Ma Zhu left, Lin Yi finally couldn't take it anymore and fell to the ground. "Huh? Where's Shield Bro?" Yu Shu wanted to cheer for Lin Yi, but in the blink of an eye, Lin Yi disappeared. "Lin Yi?" Meng Yao's eyes were sharp, and she saw Lin Yi fall to the ground. She ran over subconsciously. "Lin Yi, how are you?" At this moment, Lin Yi's face was pale. His eyes were slightly closed, but he didn't faint. He said in a weak voice, "Help me to a quiet place. I need to heal." "Okay." Meng Yao saw that Lin Yi wasn't dead and she was overjoyed. She quickly reached out to help Lin Yi, but Lin Yi was simply too weak. He didn't have an ounce of strength left in his body. He tried to stand up with Meng Yao's help, but he couldn't. Meng Yao saw how weak Lin Yi was, and her heart ached. She wanted to carry him, but she hesitated. She wasn't his girlfriend. It wasn't good to hug him. If this news got out, how could she get married in the future? Meng Yao valued chastity very much. This was also the reason why she had such an intense reaction when she kissed Lin Yi. She felt that a girl should be loyal to one person. The only person who could be intimate with her was her boyfriend, her future husband. However, Lin Yi became like this because of her. He almost gave up his life to defeat Ma Zhu. Why should she care about this? At most, she wouldn't marry anyone. If no one wanted her, she could just marry Lin Yi. Besides, when she was in the hospital, he had already seen her naked. Why should she care about this? Even Meng Yao herself jumped in fright at the thought. Was this what she was thinking? Or, Meng Yao was confused about her future. Looking at Yu Shu, Meng Yao gritted her teeth and reached out to carry Lin Yi. However, she realized that Lin Yi was too heavy. If she carried him alone, she was afraid that she would fall on Lin Yi. She could only say, "Shu, come help me. What are you standing there for?" "Oh, I thought Yao Yao sis wanted to monopolize Shield Bro." Yu Shu quickly ran over to help. Meng Yao was speechless. She and Yu Shu carried Lin Yi to the cave and placed him on the ground carefully. Then, she asked, "All right, what should I do now?" "Use a knife to cut open the gunshot wound on my leg. Take out the bullet and let out the poisonous blood. Clean it." Before Lin Yi entered the jade space, he had to take out the poisonous bullet. Although according to Lin Yi's judgment, the poison on the bullet wasn't too strong, or he would have died a long time ago, he couldn't be careless. Who knew if there would be trouble after a long time? "Shu, go get the mineral water," Meng Yao said hurriedly. But Yao Yao sis, the mineral water was poured out earlier. Look, there's still water." Yu Shu's face was bitter. She pointed at her masterpiece and said, "Is juice okay?" Meng Yao was speechless. She looked at Lin Yi and asked. Chapter 894. Or it'll be a loss. Oh, I'll go get some now then. Yu Shu, on the other hand, was worried about Lin Yi's injuries as well. She got up to get some water from the bottle. "Let General Wei Wu stay with you. It can find you and keep you safe," Lin Yi said. "Okay." Yu Shu ran out of the cave and went to get water with General Wei Wu. What do I do now?" Meng Yao had never experienced something like this before, and she didn't know what to do. Yu Shu was gone, and she didn't know what to do. "There's a dagger on the side of my shoe. Take it out, cut open the wound on my leg, and take the bullet out." Lin Yi really didn't have any strength left. It was already a miracle that he was able to talk without fainting. "Okay." Meng Yao didn't dare delay. She bent down and found a dagger on the side of Lin Yi's shoe. She looked at the wound on Lin Yi's leg and hesitated. "You, take off your pants? You're not helping me?" Lin Yi smiled bitterly. He didn't have the strength. If it weren't for the urgency of the situation, Lin Yi wouldn't have let Meng Yao do something like this. She was a newbie, and she didn't even know how to remove a bullet. Lin Yi was worried that she wouldn't be able to do it. But Lin Yi really had no other choice. Lin Yi wouldn't be able to last until reinforcements came down the mountain. He had to get the poison out of his body before he fainted. "Oh," Meng Yao blushed. She knew that Lin Yi didn't have the strength to take off his pants, but it was embarrassing for her to do it for him. The miss clenched her teeth and used her trembling hands to touch Lin Yi's belt, but because of her nervousness, she couldn't open the belt buckle no matter how hard she tried. She was so anxious that her forehead was covered with sweat. She didn't want to waste time, but the more anxious she was, the more mistakes she'd make. Meng Yao almost bit her lip. "There's a bayonet at the side. Just open it." Lin Yi looked at Missy's flushed face and really wanted to bite her. She's so cute." "Oh." Meng Yao followed Lin Yi's instructions, a little embarrassed. She unbuckled the belt, but her movements paused. The eldest miss had never thought that one day she would have to take off her pants for a man. However, this scene did not happen on their wedding night, but in a rundown cave. Moreover, the two of them were not going to do such a beautiful thing. Meng Yao clenched her teeth and pulled down Lin Yi's pants. Lin Yi found the miss expression funny. Why was she acting like a gangster? Inside the trousers, Lin Yi was only wearing a pair of shorts. The young miss's heart was in her throat again. She didn't dare to look, but she had to, because right now, time was life. The miss was very clear about this. Can you open your legs?" The miss pursed her lips, completely different from her usual self. At this moment, she was like a shy little wife, looking at Lin Yi. She wanted to reject him, but at the same time, She wanted to welcome him. Lin Yi moved his legs with difficulty, and Meng Yao suddenly realized that Lin Yi was injured. How could he move? She quickly reached out to help Lin Yi. However, Lin Yi tried his best to open his legs, and Meng Yao also wanted to help Lin Yi. The two of them moved at the same time, and Meng Yao's hand touched something she shouldn't have touched. And so, Lin Yi had a very evil and disappointing reaction. And then, the Miss face turned even redder, like a cooked lobster. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. How could he have a reaction in this situation? This was too evil. Meng Yao didn't know what to do. The impact of today's events was too big. You touched me in the hospital, and today, I'm the one who's at a disadvantage. Meng Yao incoherently tried to defend herself from the embarrassment. Lin Yi looked at the miss who was using such a weak excuse to defend herself. He found it funny. So, the miss had such a cute side to her. Under her usual cold appearance, there was a cute and passionate heart. Okay, but I can't hold it anymore. After you help me take out the bullet, you can touch me however you want. Lin Yi also joked. Although Lin Yi's joke was a little inappropriate, it became an important spice in the atmosphere. Meng Yao heard Lin Yi's words and glared at Lin Yi. She laughed and raised the dagger in her hand. Do something naughty again and I'll cut you. Meng Yao wouldn't have said something like this if this was a different time and place, but with Lin Yi's joke, Meng Yao regretted it as soon as she said it. She shut her mouth after saying it. But these few jokes made Meng Yao let go of her shyness, and she started to study Lin Yi's wound. What do I do? Meng Yao asked. Cut open the wound and take out the bullet. Lin Yi said. How do I do that? Meng Yao didn't know where to start. Whatever you like, do it however you want. Lin Yi said. Does it hurt? Meng Yao couldn't bring herself to do it. Yes, but if you don't do it, I might die from the poison. Lin Yi frowned. I don't know what poison Jiningjun made, but it has a suppressive effect on the human nervous system. If I don't take it out, there might be a problem. Lin Yi was afraid that he would go into a coma after the poison took effect instead of entering the jade space. Fainting from exhaustion was different from fainting from being poisoned. Lin Yi didn't dare to take the risk. Oh, Meng Yao heard that Lin Yi would die if she didn't take out the bullet. She was so scared that she didn't care anymore. She clenched her teeth and held the dagger in her hand. She started cutting the wound on Lin Yi's leg with trembling hands. Miss, you need to use more strength. Be more ruthless. You're playing with death by 1,000 cuts right now. Lin Yi was speechless as he watched Meng Yao cut herself bit by bit. This is one of the 10 great tortures of the Qing dynasty. Meng Yao's face reddened as she nodded. She finally increased the strength of her grip, but it was more of a test than anything else. Luckily, Lin Yi's dagger was fast and Lin Yi's endurance was strong. Otherwise, he would have collapsed. The wound was finally cut open by Meng Yao. She could vaguely see the bullet inside, but Meng Yao didn't know how to do it. After all, she didn't have any tools like tweezers. She couldn't just use her hands to cut it, could she? Now, I can see the bullet, but how do I take it out? Meng Yao asked hesitantly. Chapter 895. Yao Yao is so strong, ugh. Meng Yao hesitated before lowering her head and sucking on Lin Yi's wound. She couldn't think of anything else other than that. Meng Yao didn't dare make too big a cut on Lin Yi's thigh. She felt that the only way to suck the bullet out was with her mouth, as well as the poisoned blood around it. Meng Yao didn't even think about whether or not it would be inappropriate to do that. She could feel that Lin Yi's voice was getting weaker and weaker, and she couldn't care less about anything else. It didn't take long for the bullet to come out, much to Meng Yao's relief. She spat it out and started sucking the poisoned blood out of Lin Yi's wound. Yushu and General Weiwu didn't dare tarry after getting some water from the stream. They rushed back to the cave, only to see a scene that left Meng Yao's mouth agape. Holy shit, Yao Yao, you're so strong. You're helping Shield Bro. Yushu cried out in surprise. You want to repay him with your body now? But you can't. Shield Bro's injured. He's really weak. Stop. Let him recover first. Yushu couldn't be blamed for her quick image. Meng Yao's back was facing the cave entrance, and her head was buried between Lin Yi's thighs. Lin Yi, on the other hand, wasn't wearing any pants. It was hard not to misunderstand this scene. Meng Yao didn't understand Yushu's words at first, but the latter part made sense. She almost choked on Lin Yi's poisoned blood as she stood up and spat it out, glaring at Yushu. Shu, what the hell are you talking about? I'm giving Lin Yi drugs. Ah, Yushu blinked, realizing that she'd misunderstood when she saw that Shield Bro was still wearing his underwear. I see. Heh. Yao Yao, here's some water. I brought it. Meng Yao glared at Yushu, but couldn't help but shake her head with a bitter smile as she thought about how intimate their position was. Luckily, it was only Shu who'd seen it. Someone else would have walked away a long time ago if it had been anyone else. Meng Yao cleaned Lin Yi's wound and stood up. She wasn't in the mood to argue with Shu about what happened before. She asked hurriedly, "Is there any bandage I can use?" "Nope. Sanitary napkins work?" Yushu said weakly after rummaging through her bag for a while. Meng Yao didn't know what to say. That's a bloodsucker, right? I don't think so. I don't think so. But Shield Bro's wound doesn't seem to be bleeding anymore, Yushu said, surprised. Meng Yao turned her head back and saw that the wound on Lin Yi's leg had stopped bleeding. She let out a sigh of relief. Then we'll stick a sanitary pad on it first. We'll carry him down the mountain. Lin Yi's body had been soaked in all kinds of medicine since he was young, so his self-healing ability was quite good. Stopping the bleeding was a piece of cake. Just as Meng Yao and Yushu were talking, Lin Yi finally fainted. He was simply too tired, and his stamina was severely depleted. The next moment, Lin Yi entered the Jade Space. This was the only thing that Lin Yi could rejoice about. He could still enter the Jade Space. Lin Yi was afraid that he'd be poisoned too deeply and wouldn't be able to connect to the Jade Space if he fainted. Phew! Lin Yi thanked his lucky stars. He saw Jiao Lao in the Jade Space and couldn't help but grin. I didn't think that I'd be able to see you again. I really didn't. I thought that you'd die for sure. Jiao Lao nodded in agreement. But I didn't think that you'd come up with such a crazy move. You're a lunatic. It's too crazy. Do you know that if you took a step back later, you'd be smashed into pieces? Do you think that you're more resistant than Ma Zhu with his golden shield? Lin Yi smiled bitterly and felt a little awkward. I didn't care that much back then, right? How could I think of the consequences? At that time, I thought that it'd be great if I could die with Ma Zhu. Oh right, Jiao Lao, why didn't you remind me? What's the use of reminding you? You didn't care that much already, and you still have the time to care about my reminder? Jiao Lao shook his head. But I really didn't think that you'd come up with such a way to use energy. Energy bomb, that's really ruthless. That attack was no less than the bomb that you used to blow up Qibing's skyscraper. Heh. In school, the physics teacher always said, think of energy when you don't have any moves. Didn't I think of energy now? Lin Yi was talking about the solution to a physics problem. During this period of time, Lin Yi often attended classes in school. When solving physics problems, the physics teacher always said, think of energy when you don't have any moves. Lin Yi memorized it. He didn't think that it would become an important way to save his life. Zhao Yazi was speechless. You were lucky, but I have to say that you created a trump card. A trump card that can allow you to defeat opponents who are at a higher level than you. However, it's not very useful. Oh. Lin Yi paused for a second and then nodded. He understood what Zhao Yazi meant. Although the energy bomb was extremely powerful, it would also cause great damage to the user. It would be fine if the opponent died from the explosion, but if it didn't, and the opponent still had the strength to counterattack, then Lin Yi would be in danger. The energy bomb would drain all the energy in the body. Once it was used, it was equivalent to betting all of one's life on this move. It was extremely dangerous. Therefore, this move could only be used when there was no other choice. Just like today, although Ma Zhu was heavily injured from the explosion, he still had the strength to attack Lin Yi. If he wasn't scared silly by Lin Yi and continued to attack, then Lin Yi would probably die here today. However, Lin Yi could still stand up at that time. Although he looked pathetic, there were no signs of serious injuries. This made Ma Zhu inexplicably terrified. He was afraid that Lin Yi would use such a killer move again, and then he would really turn into ashes. Indeed, this move can't be used casually. Otherwise, it would be really dangerous. Lin Yi nodded. All right, Hurry up and look at your injuries, Zhao Yazi said to Lin Yi. Lin Yi sat cross-legged and silently channeled the art of dragon mastery. His body really needed to replenish energy. The energy in the space of the jade quickly rushed into Lin Yi's body. This feeling of being filled with energy was really comfortable. Lin Yi couldn't help but let out a satisfied moan, enjoying the infusion of energy. Chapter 896. He couldn't accept this. Although the energy was quickly absorbed into Lin Yi's body, it could not stay in his body. The energy entered Lin Yi's body through the pores on this side and exited through the pores on the other side. It just shuttled through Lin Yi's body and returned to the space in the jade pendant. What's going on? Lin Yi was shocked. He quickly stopped the art of dragon mastery and checked his body. That wasn't right. Although he was heavily injured this time, his injuries weren't any lighter than this time after he was beaten by Uncle Zhu. What's wrong? Zhao Yazi sensed that something was wrong with Lin Yi and quickly asked, Zhao Lao, it seems that the energy cannot be absorbed by my body. I can't convert the energy in the space of the jade pendant into my own energy. Lin Yi's eyes widened. My body is like a sieve. Energy enters from one side and exits from the other. Oh? Zhao Yazi was taken aback and frowned. Circulate the art of dragon mastery now. Let me see. Although Lin Yi was anxious, he still nodded and activated the art of dragon mastery. The energy in the space of the jade pendant was instantly mobilized and rushed into Lin Yi's body. However, something strange happened again. After the energy entered Lin Yi's body, it turned around and slipped away from Lin Yi's body. Indeed, as Lin Yi had described, his body was like a sieve, and the energy only passed through it. Strange. This is too strange. Zhao Yazi widened his eyes and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Energy can't stay in the body. This is too strange. 10 minutes later, Lin Yi stopped practicing the art of dragon mastery dejectedly. His expression was extremely ugly. Zhao Lao, I still can't convert the energy to my own use. I can clearly feel the energy leaving my body. Zhao Yazi fell into deep thought. Let me think carefully, Zhao Yazi said as he walked over to check on Lin Yi. How is it? Lin Yi asked anxiously after waiting for a while and not seeing Zhao Yazi speak. After a while, Zhao Yazi shook his head regretfully. I found a problem, and according to my guess, this might be the reason why you can't absorb the energy. What's the reason? Lin Yi asked anxiously. The reason? I'll tell you. Don't be sad. I hope you can hold on. Zhao Lao sighed and said, What do you mean? Lin Yi was stunned at first, but he immediately understood what Zhao Yazi meant. Zhao Yazi meant that although he found the reason why he couldn't absorb the energy, he didn't find a solution. Lin Yi's heart sank, but he smiled bitterly. As long as there was a reason, there was no need to worry about finding a solution. So he said, Zhao Lao, tell me, I'm not that weak. I thought about dying together with you, but now I just can't absorb the energy. Then I'll tell you. Zhao Yazi's expression became serious. Your meridians were all destroyed by your own energy bomb. It can be said that you're a useless person now. A spiritual master's meridians are all destroyed, so you're no different from an ordinary person. You can't use qi anymore. Lin Yi was shocked, and he quickly checked the injuries in his body. Lin Yi was in a hurry to train in the space of the jade pendant, so he didn't check his injuries carefully because Lin Yi was sure that no matter how serious his injuries were, they could be healed in the space of the jade pendant. Just like General Wei Wu, his organs and meridians were almost destroyed by Yu Kuan, but Lin Yi could still use the energy in his body to save it. So, Lin Yi thought that as long as he could live, it would be fine, but he didn't have the time to check the abnormalities in his body. Now that Elder Jiao was telling him about it, Lin Yi realized that his meridians had been blown to pieces by his own energy bomb. That's not right. Suddenly, Lin Yi raised his head and looked at Zhao Lao. When I was fighting with Uncle Zhu, I was seriously injured too, and many of my meridians were broken. Although not all of them were broken, I can still use my energy to heal them, right? Well, you said it yourself. Although not all of them were broken, your situation now is that all of them are broken. Zhao Yazi shook his head. How can part of them be the same as breaking all of them? As long as there are meridians that are not broken, You can still use the Art of Dragon Mastery and use these meridians that are not broken to heal other damaged meridians. But now, your meridians are all broken. How are you going to heal them? Lin Yi was speechless. What Zhao Yazi said was right. His situation was like a domino. As long as he pushed one down, it would cause a chain reaction. But if he didn't push one down, then all the other cards wouldn't fall. In other words, if one of his meridians was healed, he could slowly use the Art of Dragon Mastery to heal the other meridians. But now that he couldn't heal one, then the other meridians couldn't be healed either. Your mistake is using that energy bomb. You used up all the energy in your body. If there was still a part left, even if only 1/3 of it was left in your body, it could still heal one of your damaged meridians. Zhao Yazi shook his head and said, "But you didn't even leave a trace of energy. I can't do anything about it?" Lin Yi didn't know what to say. Even Zhao Yazi couldn't do anything about it. If he said that he couldn't do anything about it, then he really couldn't do anything about it. He kept his life, but he lost his strength. Was it a blessing or a curse? Lin Yi wasn't willing to give up. From the peak of the early phase of the mystic class, he suddenly dropped to the point where he had no strength at all. This difference made Lin Yi extremely disappointed. Gritting his teeth, Lin Yi silently started the Art of Dragon Mastery again. This time, he didn't stop for a few hours. Lin Yi let the energy flow through his body, but he still continued to train without a care. Zhao Yazi looked at the determined Lin Yi and shook his head, but he didn't say anything to stop him. He knew very well that if it was anyone else, they wouldn't give up so easily. So he let Lin Yi experiment. In a situation like this, unless Lin Yi gave up on his own accord, he wouldn't let the matter rest. Chapter 897. Life is full of adventures, Jiao Lao. Jiao Lao. Lin Yi exclaimed in surprise. Jiao Lao, I did it. Oh. Zhao Yazi was surprised. You did it? Yes. I realized that the energy that passed through my body wasn't completely useless. There was still a small amount left, and it's slowly healing my body, Lin Yi said excitedly. Although the healing area is very small, I can still feel it. Oh, you mean that? Zhao Yazi rubbed his chin. He really couldn't bear to hurt Lin Yi's feelings. However, there were some things he had to say after some hesitation. You're right. Since you're using the Art of Dragon Mastery, it's a process of energy absorption and conversion. Although your meridians are damaged, they're not completely useless. You can still convert a small amount of energy, but it's just a drop in the ocean. Oh? That means if I continue to train like this, it's possible to recover my strength? Lin Yi was overjoyed when he heard Zhao Yazi's words. He didn't hear Zhao Yazi's hidden meaning. Yes, it's possible. Zhao Yazi nodded. In about 100 years, you'll be able to repair 1/3 of your meridians. Lin Yi was shocked by Zhao Yazi's words. 100 years? Only 1/3 of it? Yes, if you train day and night, you'll be able to repair 1/3 of it in about 30,000 days. In 100,000 days, you'll be able to repair a whole meridian. By then, you'll be able to repair all your meridians very quickly. Zhao Yazi counted with his fingers for Lin Yi. Lin Yi was speechless, but I don't think it's that slow. Judging from the speed at which my injuries are healing, it will only take a few days for my injuries to recover. That's right. Zhao Yazi nodded his head as if it was a matter of course. Physical masters cultivate their bodies, while inner masters cultivate their meridians. You don't have the body of a physical master. Your body is just slightly stronger than a normal person's, so naturally, you can recover faster. However, as for your meridians, Lin Yi came to a sudden realization. So this was the reason. In that case, it seemed that he had been pleasantly surprised for nothing. Phew. Lin Yi gave up on trying and sat on the ground of the jade pendant space. Jiao Lao, is there really no other way? If I wasn't just a soul shadow, perhaps I could give it a try. If Master is here, he can also help you. Zhao Yazi said. What you said is unrealistic. Is there no more realistic way? Lin Yi asked with a bitter smile. Yes, the more realistic way is to go and practice physical masters. Zhao Yazi said, Look, that Ma Zhu. He's also very powerful after practicing physical martial arts. If you don't have a super powerful energy bomb, you're dead for sure. Lin Yi blinked his eyes. You're asking me to practice Golden Bell Shield? This is the easiest way for you to recover your strength that I can think of. Zhao Yazi nodded his head and said. Lin Yi didn't say anything. He pondered for a while and finally nodded his head. Perhaps you're right. This is the only way. It's good that you're open-minded. After all roads lead to Rome. Who knows, maybe when you open the second stone door of the cave, you'll get an unexpected reward. Zhao Yazi said. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? Lin Yi's eyes brightened. His path of practicing was different from a physical practitioner's, but it wasn't the same as a spiritual practitioner's either. He practiced the art of dragon mastery, a very rare art. If he was behind the stone door on the second floor, there might be a way to repair his meridians. Life is always full of fortuitous encounters. When you get to the mountain, there will always be a way. Zhao Yazi said, when you're in despair, maybe there will be a light at the end of the tunnel? Lin Yi nodded. If that's the case, I'll have to heal my injuries first before anything else. Shu, can't you be more steady? How are you carrying him? If you carry him like this, your shield bro will die from the shaking. Meng Yao and Yu Shu carried Lin Yi down the mountain. The two girls took care of Lin Yi's injuries and didn't dare to stay any longer. They were afraid that Zheningjuan's men would come back again. If that happened, not only would Lin Yi be in danger, but they would also be in danger. The phone was taken away by Zheningjuan's men, and Lin Yi's phone was taken out by Meng Yao from his pocket. It was blown to pieces and couldn't be used at all. Half of the flip phone was nowhere to be seen. They couldn't call for help and were worried about Lin Yi's injuries, so they each carried Lin Yi down the mountain. Meng Yao originally wanted to carry Lin Yi, but she realized that the mountain path was too steep. She almost threw Lin Yi off, so she gave up the idea of carrying Lin Yi and asked Shu to help carry Lin Yi. So, Meng Yao held Lin Yi's feet and carried his legs in front, while Yu Shu held Lin Yi's armpits and carried Lin Yi's arms behind. The two of them walked down the mountain carefully, one in front and one behind. This steep mountain range, even if one person went down the mountain without carrying anything, it was still very dangerous, and it was very easy to fall, not to mention two people carrying a wounded person. Oh, okay. It was Yu Shu's first time carrying someone, and she could only try to find a way. How could she be familiar with it? As she spoke, she tightened her grip and made Lin Yi's head press against her abdomen to prevent Lin Yi from shaking. Do you want to suffocate him to death? Your chest is so big, it's going to suffocate his head. Meng Yao looked at Yu Shu speechlessly and glared at her. Then what should we do? It's already so big, we can't cut it off, it's going to hurt. Yu Shu wanted to remove Lin Yi's head from under her chest, but she was afraid that it would hurt Lin Yi. She said helplessly, Yao Yao sis, why don't you take the back? Your chest is small, it won't suffocate him to death. Meng Yao almost exploded from Yu Shu's words. What do you mean my chest is small? Mine is just the right size. Okay? Who's a big cow like you? Meng Yao himphed and retorted. You continue to carry him. You're too short. It's not suitable for you to walk in front. Yu Shu wasn't angry. She knew that she wasn't as tall as Meng Yao. She smiled and said, okay. Chapter 898. Chapter 0897. A difficult journey. Yao Yao, are you all right? Yu Shu might have been messing around with Meng Yao, but she was really worried about Meng Yao. She was shocked when she saw Meng Yao fall down. SSSSSS. Meng Yao was in so much pain that she was about to cry. She had never been hurt like this before. The weather was hot, and she wasn't wearing much clothing. Kneeling on the hard stone road made her knees purple, but Meng Yao couldn't care less. She gritted her teeth and stood up slowly, but her hands were still holding onto Lin Yi's legs, afraid that she would fall. Meng Yao shook her head with a crying face. I'm fine, let's go. Oh, Yu Shu nodded. She knew that Yao Yao must be in a lot of pain, but she didn't know what to say. Should she ask Yao Yao to put Lin Yi down and rest for a while? That wouldn't do. The two stumbled down the mountain. Meng Yao didn't know how many times she'd fallen on her knees, and Yu Shu didn't know how many times she'd fallen on her buttocks. Their arms were cut by branches and rocks, but they didn't seem to notice it at all. The two let out a sigh of relief when they reached the foot of the mountain, smiling at each other as if they'd completed a big mission. They were both worried about the same man, but they weren't jealous of each other. It was as if their hearts were closer than ever. Luckily, Linny didn't remove the car keys before he went up the mountain. Linny had a backup plan, so that it would be easier for him to escape. No one would be able to steal his car at the foot of the mountain. It was convenient for Ming Yao and Yushu now. Otherwise, Lin Yi's car keys would have been blown to pieces. Ming Yao and Yushu carefully placed Lin Yi on the back seat of the Beetle, and the two hurried back home. They didn't go to the hospital, but went home directly. They knew that Lin Yi never went to the hospital when he was injured. He could recover on his own. This time, before Lin Yi fainted, he did not ask them to send him to the hospital. Peng Zhan paced around the villa anxiously. He called Lin Yi, but his phone was turned off. He called his daughter and Shu, but their phones were still turned off. He couldn't contact the kidnappers, so he didn't know how Lin Yi, his daughter, and Shu were doing. Did Lin Yi pick up his daughter and Shu? Did the kidnappers keep their promise and let them go? Why did Lin Yi also turn off his phone? Faubert was injured, and Peng Zhan didn't even have anyone to talk to. He couldn't call the police either, so he could only wait anxiously for Lin Yi's return. Suddenly, the sound of a car came from outside the villa. Peng Zhan jumped and quickly ran out of the villa, only to see that Yushu's yellow beetle was back. Peng Zhan shouted subconsciously, but after shouting, he realized that the person in the driver's seat wasn't Lin Yi, but his daughter Ming Yao. Daddy. Ming Yao gritted her teeth the whole way. Her knees were hurting, and she couldn't even step on the gas pedal, but she still persisted. She had to persist. Lin Yi was down, and she had to bear the responsibility of an elder sister. Shu, on the other hand, was even worse than her. Ming Yao fell on her knees, and Yushu fell on her butt. She didn't even dare to sit down, lying on her side the whole way, and it was very uncomfortable. However, seeing Peng Zhan, Ming Yao couldn't hold it in anymore. Tears flowed out of her eyes. There were grievances, pain, and most of all, she was worried for Lin Yi. Fortunately, they reached home safely, and Lin Yi didn't die. Ming Yao got off the car, and she couldn't even stand straight. She didn't know how she managed to persevere the whole way without any accidents. She jumped into Peng Zhan's arms. Daddy, I'm so scared. All right, it's good that you're back. Peng Zhan was happy to see his daughter, but he didn't see Lin Yi. He was curious. Yao, where's Lin Yi? He's in the back of the car. He's hurt. He got hurt trying to save me and Shu. Ming Yao cried, very sad. Daddy, Lin Yi almost died just now. You know, he almost lost his life to save us. Peng Zhan was shocked. Then why are you guys still going home? Aren't you going to send him to the hospital? Shield Bro always recovers on his own. He never asked us to send him to the hospital. Yushu explained, covering her, but as she got off the car. Is that so? Peng Zhan remembered that when Faubert was injured, the doctors in the hospital couldn't do anything about it, right? It seemed like Lin Yi had his own ways, and Peng Zhan didn't say anything more. He opened the car door and carried Lin Yi into the villa. Lin Yi was placed on his bed in his own room, and Ming Yao and Yushu had already changed into pajamas. One of them had a bruised butt, and the other had a purple knee. One of them didn't dare to stand, and the other didn't dare to sit, but both of them stayed by Lin Yi's bed. Peng Zhan sighed. These two kids had never suffered much since they were young, but now, with just a little bit of safflower oil, they gritted their teeth and stayed by Lin Yi's side without rest. This made Peng Zhan very happy. They had finally grown up without him noticing. She was no longer the carefree little girl she used to be. Do we really not need to send Lin Yi to the hospital? Although Peng Zhan saw that Lin Yi's complexion had obviously improved, he was still a little worried. There's no need. The hospital can't do anything about his injury. Ming Yao shook her head. She believed that Lin Yi must have a way to treat his injury, even if Lin Yi seemed to be asleep at the moment. Peng Zhan nodded. I'll go to the company's police station to deal with the aftermath. You guys stay at home with Lin Yi. Don't go out. The villa area had 24-hour surveillance, so the kidnappers wouldn't be able to attack openly. Besides, they didn't know how Lin Yi's injury was, and he couldn't even protect himself right now, so they didn't have to worry about Ming Yao and Yushu's safety. As for Faubert's injury, they could only wait for Lin Yi to wake up before going to save Faubert. Otherwise, there was no other way. After Peng Zhan left, Ming Yao hesitated and said to Yushu, Shu, Should we tell Tang Yun about Lin Yi's injury? Tell her what? Let her cause trouble? If she knew that Shield Bro got injured because of us, she would definitely be furious. Yushu shook her head. Chapter 899. Who is right and who is wrong? Then, I understand. Yayao sis, you decide. Yushu didn't know what to do. Although she didn't want Tang Yun to come, Mingyao was right. They had to let Tang Yun know sooner or later. Shu, Tang Yun isn't a bad person. When we were in danger, Tang Yun would ask Lin Yi to help. How could we not tell her when something happened to Lin Yi? Mingyao seemed to be explaining it to Shu, but at the same time, it seemed like she was explaining it to herself. Speaking of which, Lin Yi's just a shield dad hired for me. He's not my bodyguard. Why would he risk his life for 30,000 yuan? Yeah, Yushu nodded. Maybe Shield Bro likes you? Huh. Mingyao paused, blushing at Yushu's words. How is that possible? Don't talk nonsense. If he liked me, why would he bother with Tang Yun? Tang Yun is braver than you. Yushu, on the other hand, saw through everything. Shield Bro would have been yours if you'd confessed earlier, Yao Yao. Meng Yao's heart tightened. Was that really the case? She shook her head. Let's not talk about this. I'll call Tang Yun. At school, Tang Yun was restless the entire morning. She had been worried about Lin Yi ever since she left Lin Yi, but she didn't dare to call him. She didn't want to disturb him, so she didn't even listen to what the teacher was saying in class. She kept thinking about Lin Yi. It was finally noon, but there was still no news from Lin Yi. She couldn't help but give Lin Yi a call, but the phone was turned off. Tang Yun's heart tightened as a bad feeling rose in her heart. Lin Yi, why did you turn off your phone? Mingyao and Yushu had turned off their phones earlier, and now Lin Yi had turned off his too. Did something happen to him too? Thinking of this, Tang Yun quickly called Mingyao and Yushu, but their phones were still turned off. Tang Yun panicked. She wanted to know about Lin Yi's situation, but at this moment, she didn't know who to ask. She was so anxious that she didn't even want to eat lunch. She sat alone in the classroom in a daze, somewhat at a loss. Tang Yun's phone rang all of a sudden, startling her. She quickly picked it up and saw that it was an unfamiliar number. Hello? Tang Yun? I'm Mingyao. Miss didn't have her phone anymore, so she could only use her home phone to call Tang Yun. She had a natural hostility towards Tang Yun, so she remembered Tang Yun's phone number very clearly. Otherwise, she wouldn't know how to contact Tang Yun. Mingyao, are you all right? Tang Yun was relieved. If Mingyao was fine, then Lin Yi should be fine as well. However, Tang Yun's heart tightened again. If Lin Yi was fine, then why didn't Lin Yi call her, but Mingyao? This didn't make sense. Tang Yun subconsciously asked, Where's Lin Yi? Is he with you? Lin Yi. Mingyao had already decided to tell Tang Yun, but she didn't know what to say. She didn't know how to say it. How to face Tang Yun. What happened to Lin Yi? Tang Yun saw Meng Yao's hesitation, and she had a bad feeling. What happened to him? He's injured. Meng Yao gritted her teeth and said, I'm sorry. Injured? Is it serious? Tang Yun asked anxiously. He's unconscious, but it shouldn't be a big deal. After all, he's been injured a few times, but he's always been fine. Meng Yao said carefully. This time, she was a little weak in front of Tang Yun, but she couldn't help it. Lin Yi was injured because of her. Should? Tang Yun was a little annoyed. What did she mean by should? How could she be so careless? She quickly asked, What did the doctor say? Where are you guys now? I'll go right now. We didn't go to the hospital, we're at home. Meng Yao said. Why didn't you go to the hospital? You guys. Seriously. Tang Yun was a little angry. He's injured, and you guys didn't send him to the hospital. Are you trying to kill him? Tang Yun, listen to me first. Meng Yao naturally understood Tang Yun's feelings. It's true that Lin Yi got injured, but he recovered by himself several times. This time, he only asked us to bring him to a quiet place to heal. He didn't ask us to send him to the hospital. I see. Tang Yun suddenly remembered that Lin Yi wouldn't find trouble with Zhao Qibing for her. After tearing down his building, he was injured by Zhao Qibing's men. He didn't go to the hospital, but went to Fatty Lai's house to heal. After that, Lin Yi recovered by himself without any doctor's help. Thinking of this, Tang Yun suddenly felt embarrassed for her rashness. I was too anxious. I'm sorry, I'll go right now. Tang Yun's apology made Ming Yao a little embarrassed. After all, Lin Yi got injured because of her, and Tang Yun still said this. She felt even more sorry. You don't need to apologize to me. You're worried about Lin Yi. It's not wrong. After all, it's because of me that Lin Yi got injured. I should be the one apologizing to you. All right, let's not talk about who's right and who's wrong. I'll go right now. Tang Yun didn't want to dwell on this issue. It was meaningless. She was worried about Lin Yi more than she was complaining about Ming Yao. Although Tang Yun still held a grudge against Lin Yi for getting injured because of Ming Yao and Yushu, it was Lin Yi's choice no matter what. Lin Yi went to save them. It was Lin Yi's decision. As Lin Yi's girlfriend, she should support Lin Yi unconditionally and not blame Ming Yao and Yushu. Come to my house directly, Villa Area A0033, Ming Yao said. The security here knows, okay? Tang Yun remembered Meng Yao's house number and hung up. She stumbled out of the classroom and almost bumped into someone. Luckily, Tang Yun reacted fast enough and stopped in time. Mr. Wang. Tang Yun jumped. She didn't expect it to be Wang Jifeng. Chapter 900. Taking advantage of him? I understand, Master Wang. Tang Yun wasn't in the mood to talk to him anymore. She was worried about Lin Yi's safety. She forced a smile and left quickly. Wang Jifeng shook his head. Why was Tang Yun's attitude so cold now? Could it be that Lin Yi said something to her, and she knew about his situation? That's why she was so cold to him. Wang Jifeng couldn't help but worry at the thought. According to Tang Yun's personality, although her life was much better than before, she wouldn't be so extravagant as to take a taxi. But this time, she stopped a taxi and went straight to the villa area. So beautiful. This was Tang Yun's first thought when she arrived at the villa area. Every villa was spacious and bright. They were even more beautiful than Fatty Lai's villa. Tang Yun already thought that her new house was beautiful, but when she arrived here, she finally knew what luxury was. So Ming Yao's family was this rich. Tang Yun sighed. If she really had to compete with the miss, what could she use to compete? But this thought only flashed through her mind. Tang Yun's heart was on Lin Yi now. She paid the taxi fee and came to the villa A0033. She pressed the doorbell. Yao sis, someone is pressing the doorbell, Yushu said. Oh. Ming Yao looked at Lin Yi blankly. She didn't know what was going on in her mind. She only responded subconsciously after hearing Yushu's words. Yao sis? Yushu called again. Oh. Ming Yao responded again, but there was no other reaction. Yushu had no choice but to open the door first. Lin Yi. Ming Yao didn't hear what Yushu was saying at all, her thoughts drifting back to the first time she met Lin Yi. He was wearing a tattered shirt and a pair of tattered pants, and Ming Yao wasn't good at communicating with strangers in the first place. It was only natural that she would reject a stranger like Lin Yi from the bottom of her heart. Lin Yi. However, after Lin Yi took a shower and changed his clothes, Ming Yao had to admit that Lin Yi was quite energetic. At least a guy with this kind of appearance should be very popular with girls. But Ming Yao didn't like him very much. How could she get used to a stranger suddenly appearing in the villa? After the big fight with her dad, Ming Yao had to accept the reality of Lin Yi's existence. But because of her instinctive rejection and vigilance towards strangers, the miss didn't give him a good look. Afraid that Lin Yi would do something bad to her, Ming Yao called her best friend Shu over and asked her to stay with her in the villa. With Lin Yi's addition, the conflict increased. Ming Yao almost went crazy after drinking the soda with Lin Yi's saliva on it. Did she kiss this bastard indirectly? Ming Yao was disgusted. She really wanted to kick this bastard out of the villa. But now, she felt heartache for him, shed tears for him, and gave up her shyness and modesty for him. Why? When did it start to change? Was it the first time he saved her? Or did she accept him naturally after living with him for a long time? Ming Yao didn't know. She really didn't know. She didn't know why, but she didn't hate him anymore. On the contrary, she started to rely on him. She treated him as a member of the villa, as her family. With him around, she felt at ease. Because she was afraid of losing Lin Yi, the miss was jealous of another pretty girl for the first time. She said something that even she was embarrassed about. Today, When Lin Yi told them to learn to take care of themselves, Meng Yao's heart felt like it was being torn apart. It was a heart-wrenching pain like losing a family member. It was just like the time when General Wei Wu was injured by Yu Kuan. Or even worse, she didn't know what position Lin Yi was in her heart. Was he a family member? A relative? A friend? Or was he just a follower? Or, she didn't know? She really didn't know. She only knew that if she lost Lin Yi, she would be very sad. I'm sorry. I always bring trouble to you. The miss caressed Lin Yi's face and murmured. Yushu ran to the door and saw that it was Tang Yun. She opened the door, but she didn't know what to say. How's Lin Yi? Tang Yun asked anxiously. He's still the same. Yushu let Tang Yun in and said, you can see for yourself later. I think Shield Bro should be fine. He's very powerful. Tang Yun frowned. What use do you think it is? You're not a prophet. Over there, that's Shield Bro's room. Yushu pointed at Lin Yi's room after bringing Tang Yun into the villa. Tang Yun looked around the first floor of the villa and asked casually, where do you guys live? Upstairs, Yushu said subconsciously. Oh haha. Tang Yun let out a sigh of relief. No, the room downstairs is the guest room. Shield Bro is staying upstairs with Yao Yao sis. Yushu realized that she slipped up and quickly corrected herself. Oh, it's pretty good. Tang Yun nodded. Pretty good. Yushu froze and widened her eyes. She immediately understood that Tang Yun didn't believe her at all. Yushu shrugged. Why was her mouth moving so fast? It wasn't easy for her to lie to Tang Yun, saying that Yao Yao sis and Shield Bro were taking a shower. Now, her lie was exposed. Tang Yun entered Lin Yi's room, and the first thing she saw was Meng Yao, who was sitting on the edge of the bed. She didn't seem to notice that someone was here, and her right hand was placed on Lin Yi's cheek. This made Tang Yun frown subconsciously, and she felt uncomfortable. Tang Yun had already calmed down. She didn't come here to fight with the big and small families. She just wanted to watch over Lin Yi and see if he was okay. But Meng Yao couldn't be so shameless. Even if Lin Yi fainted, she couldn't take advantage of him, could she? Ahem. Tang Yun coughed twice. Men and women shouldn't touch each other. Miss, please behave yourself. Meng Yao didn't realize that Tang Yun was here. She was startled by the sudden voice. Her face blushed and the hand on Lin Yi's cheek trembled. She quickly moved it away like a mistress who was caught cheating. I saw that Lin Yi's face was a little dirty, so I wiped it for him. Don't misunderstand. Chapter 901. Jinx. Tang Yun, naturally, didn't believe Meng Yao's words. She looked at Meng Yao suspiciously, trying to figure out what was going on. Oh, Yao Yao sis, why do you say that? What do you mean by that? You and Shield Bro are closer than her. Yushu wasn't happy. Shu, don't talk nonsense. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. She didn't want her to continue. But Yushu insisted. I'll say it. What's wrong with that? Shield Bro saw you naked and touched your whole body. He wouldn't have kissed you if there was no such thing as giving or receiving. You are much closer than her. Tang Yun's face changed, but she knew that Yushu always liked to talk nonsense. She didn't believe her completely. Humph. What you said is probably false. Don't say it's false if you don't believe me. Yushu himphed. Yao Yao sis took off all her clothes for Shield Bro when she was poisoned. Shield Bro saw every part of Yao Yao sis' body, and she even peed on his face. Wah. Tang Yun and Meng Yao gasped at the same time. Meng Yao was furious after hearing Yushu's words. She ignored the pain in her leg and jumped up from the bed. Shu, I'll tear your mouth off and let you talk? Oh, don't. I'm just telling the truth. Hey, be honest. Yushu screamed as well. Tang Yun looked at the two clowns and didn't know what to say. If Lin Yi had seen or touched Meng Yao's body when he was treating Meng Yao, then it was understandable because Lin Yi was playing the role of a doctor. A doctor's heart didn't discriminate between genders. But thinking about the relationship between Meng Yao and Lin Yi, Tang Yun was conflicted. If Lin Yi had seen a girl he didn't know and looked at her body, then Tang Yun wouldn't feel anything special. But Meng Yao was different. Plus, what did Yushu say that Meng Yao had peed on Lin Yi's face? What was going on? Wasn't this Meng Yao too evil? Lin Yi treated her, but she still treated Lin Yi like this? Tang Yun, don't listen to Shu's nonsense. What she said is true, but Lin Yi and I are just a patient and doctor. Meng Yao tried to explain subconsciously. This time, Lin Yi's injury changed Meng Yao's attitude. She didn't want to fight with Tang Yun anymore. Besides, Lin Yi was injured because of her. What was the point of fighting? Oh, Tang Yin nodded. She didn't want to argue with Meng Yao, but she was a little annoyed. She looked down at Lin Yi. How did he get hurt? He did it to save me and Shu. Meng Yao didn't want to hide anything as she told Tang Yun everything that happened. So that's how it is. Tang Yun's heart ached. Lin Yi was willing to give up his life for Meng Yao and Yushu. How could this be? If Lin Yi died, what would happen to her? Didn't he think about the consequences? Why did he treat Meng Yao and Yushu so well? Tang Yun was jealous. Although Meng Yao and Yushu would be in danger if Lin Yi didn't save them, Lin Yi couldn't just throw his life away like that. Haven't we already averted the danger? Don't be so sad. Shield Bro's complexion is getting better. He should be fine now. Yushu saw that Meng Yao and Tang Yun's faces were filled with sadness, so she said, last time, Shield Bro got hurt because of you. This time it's because of Yao Yao sis, so you guys are even now. Don't blame each other anymore. Man, I wonder when Shield Bro will get hurt because of me? Shu, you jinx. What are you talking about? Meng Yao heard Yushu's words and couldn't help but get angry. Didn't he have you this time? You want Lin Yi to get hurt? Tang Yun also looked at Yushu angrily. However, since Meng Yao had already scolded her, Tang Yun couldn't say anything. Although Lin Yi was in the jade space, he still knew what was happening outside. However, his body was too weak and he couldn't wake up. Meng Yao and Yushu worked hard to carry him down the mountain. Lin Yi was very touched. The mist was willing to kneel on the ground for him. It made Lin Yi very touched. Lin Yi risked his life to save them. The mist was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Only at this moment could she show her true nature. Lin Yi, on the other hand, knew what happened after Tang Yun's arrival. He was a little embarrassed as he listened to the three women's insinuations. However, Lin Yi wanted to wake up and tell them not to worry about him. But Lin Yi's body was too heavily injured. His body couldn't absorb the energy in the jade space. He could only rely on the art of dragon mastery to slowly recover his injuries. Time passed. 1 hour, one afternoon, all the way until night. Lin Yi still didn't show any signs of waking up. Tang Yun was getting anxious. Meng Yao and Yushu were getting anxious as well. The three of them put aside their previous grudges. At this moment, they only had one goal, and that was to find a way to wake up Lin Yi as soon as possible. Why hasn't Lin Yi woken up yet? Tang Yun was worried. She felt that time was passing like a year. I don't know. Last time, he woke up the whole night, right? Meng Yao hesitated and said, should we wait in the living room? Will we disturb him if we stay here? Tang Yun thought about it and nodded. It was true. Would they disturb Lin Yi when he was recovering? The three of them carefully left Lin Yi's room and closed the door. They went to the living room. Do you want something to drink? Meng Yao was the owner of the villa. Although her relationship with Tang Yun was a little awkward, this wasn't the time to be petty. Anything. Tang Yun wasn't in the mood for drinks. Meng Yao went to the fridge and took out a couple of bottles of drinks, putting them on the coffee table in the living room. She picked one up randomly and took a sip. She hadn't had a drop of water since morning, but she cried a couple of times. Her body was almost dehydrated. Yushu was the same. She didn't eat or drink anything. She picked up a bottle to replenish herself. Chapter 902. Chapter 001. Lin Yi's favorite girl. Would Lin Yi worry if she and Shu got sick? Tang Yi nodded and took a sip. The three of them just stared at each other in the living room, not knowing what to say. It was a little awkward. After a while, Yushu felt bored and wanted to find something to talk about. It wasn't that she wasn't worried about Lin Yi, but that Yushu was loyal to Shield Bro the most. She was sure that Shield Bro would be fine. She had faith in Lin Yi. Oh, let's discuss what kind of girl Shield Bro likes. Yushu looked at Meng Yao and Tang Yun and said, Shu, what's there to discuss? Meng Yao frowned. Tang Yun was sitting here, and she was Lin Yi's girlfriend. What kind of girl did Lin Yi like? Let's discuss. We don't have anything to do right now, right? Yushu blinked. I'll speak first. I think Shield Bro likes pretty, gentle girls with good family backgrounds. What do you guys think? How would I know? Meng Yao said helplessly as Yushu looked at her. Tang Yun, what do you think? Yushu then looked at Tang Yun. She was actually saying this to Tang Yun. After comparing with Tang Yun, Yushu realized that Yao Yao's family background was the only advantage she had. So she decided to use this to attack her opponent. Even though Yushu knew that Shield Bro didn't care about that. I'm not participating. You guys discuss it yourselves. Tang Yun's face darkened when Yushu pointed out her weakness. Oh, Shield Bro definitely doesn't like quiet and unsociable girls like Tang Yun. Yushu mumbled to herself. Impossible. Tang Yun panicked upon hearing Yushu's words. She glared at Yushu. Bullshit. Linny likes people like me. Why else would he ask me to be his girlfriend? That's because he didn't have any other choice. There's no other school beauty in our school who likes Shield Bro other than you. That's why he chose you as his girlfriend. Yushu explained. Aren't you two the prettiest girls in school? Why didn't Linny choose you? Tang Yun was a little angry after hearing Yushu's words. I did. Yao Yao is the main wife, and I'm the small wife. Yushu puffed up her chest confidently. Don't think that your boobs are the truth. Keep making things up. Tang Yun humphed. What? Are you jealous that my breasts are bigger than yours? Yushu said. What am I envious of? I'm not envious at all. It's so big. It's such a burden. I'll die of exhaustion if I walk too much. Tang Yun pouted. All right, Shu. Stop fooling around. Meng Yao didn't want to become enemies with Tang Yun, but she knew that Shu was doing it for her own good, so she couldn't reprimand Shu. She could only tell Shu to stop and said to Tang Yun, Shu is just like that. Don't take it to heart. Oh, it's okay. I know. Tang Yun was a little surprised after hearing Meng Yao's explanation, but she didn't want to argue with Yushu at this time. In the blink of an eye, it was already midnight. Pengzhan came back with 150 million transferred from the company. Although the company was one of the top 500 companies in the country, it was still a bit of a loss. Fortunately, there was still 50 million left. If it was properly arranged, it would be able to tide through the crisis for a while. However, some expansion plans had to be paused. Of course, this was all thanks to the 100 million Lin Yi borrowed from Lu Tianyi. If it wasn't for this 100 million, Pengzhan Industries would be in dire straits. How's Lin Yi? Pengzhan saw that there was light in the villa, so he opened the door with the key. But when he saw Tang Yun on the sofa, he paused for a second. This was the first time he saw Tang Yun. This is Tang Yun saw Pengzhan, the legendary chairman of Pengzhan Industries, the director of the school. She had only seen Pengzhan's speech when she first entered the school. At that time, Tang Yun was just one of the tens of thousands of students in the audience. But now, seeing Pengzhan at such a close distance, Tang Yun couldn't help but feel nervous. However, Tang Yun had met some big shots before, Fatty Lai, Guan Shuamin, and even Lu Tianyi. So even though she was nervous, she didn't feel awkward at all. She stood up politely and introduced herself. Hello, Uncle Chu. I'm Tang Yun, Lin Yi's girlfriend. I'm also a student of Songshan Songshan School. I've seen you at the opening ceremony before. Oh, you're Tang Yun? Nice to meet you. Pengzhan had heard Faubert talk about Tang Yun before, but he had never seen her before. Now that he saw Tang Yun, his eyes lit up. What a pretty girl. She wasn't any worse than his own daughter. No wonder Lin Yi liked her. Lin Yi is still unconscious. We didn't want to disturb him, so we waited in the living room. Meng Yao said. I see. Pengzhan sighed. What about Li Fu? How is he? Is he okay? Faubert's condition is the same as before. I don't dare to act recklessly if Lin Yi doesn't wake up. Meng Yao shook her head. Lin Yi and Faubert were unconscious. Two of the people closest to her in her life were unconscious. Meng Yao's mood was very low. Looks like we can only wait for Lin Yi to wake up. Pengzhan said. You guys didn't eat tonight? Are you hungry? Pengzhan remembered that Faubert was usually the one who sent food to his daughter. Even if Faubert didn't come, Lin Yi would cook. But now, both Lin Yi and Faubert were bedridden. His daughter probably hadn't eaten? No, I don't want to eat. Meng Yao shook her head and looked at Tang Yun and Yushu. What about you guys? Tang Yun and Yushu weren't in the mood to eat. Besides, they drank some nutrition drinks earlier. Girls had small appetites, so they could just treat it as a diet. Have some instant noodles? Lin Yi is a doctor. He didn't ask you guys to send him to the hospital because he has his ways. Peng Zhan comforted. I haven't eaten anything yet, so I'm a little hungry too. Okay, I'll go prepare. The miss got up and prepared instant noodles after hearing her father's words. She didn't really want to eat, but since her father wanted to eat, then everyone should eat. Chapter 903. Finally awake, Bingzhan was eating noodles with his daughter, but saw that his daughter, Yushu, and Tang Yun were all listless. He stood up and said his goodbyes. I'll head back then. You guys rest early too? Okay. Meng Yao nodded in response to Peng Zhan's suggestion. Peng Zhan shook his head and left the villa. Time passed by, and in the blink of an eye, it was already 1:00 in the morning, but none of the three girls felt sleepy. Meng Yao, Yushu, why don't you guys rest first? I'll wait for Linny here. You guys don't have to stay with me. Tang Yun said as she watched Yushu yawning and widening her eyes. She felt bad for Yushu. She just needed to stick a stick in her eyes. We're not staying with you. We're just waiting for Lin Yi to wake up. After all, he got hurt because of us. Meng Yao said with a bitter smile. Yeah, we care more about Shield Bro than you do. Yushu nodded as well. I'm afraid that the three of us won't be able to do it if we keep going like this. Tang Yun explained helplessly. 1 day is fine, 2 days is fine, but we'll have to sleep for 3 days, right? What if Linny wakes up and we can't find him? What would we do? If that's the case, you're right. Meng Yao nodded. If that's the case, then let's go with the rotation strategy. 1 sleeps, 2 at the same time. What do you think? I think so too. Tang Yun agreed. Yushu, you seem to be the most sleepy. Why don't you go rest first? I don't want to. You go first. I'm not sleepy. Yawn. Yushu yawned again. Yushu's body wasn't that strong, which was why she didn't last as long as Meng Yao when Pinliang locked her up in the cave. Shu, go to sleep. Listen to me. Meng Yao ordered. Oh, all right then. Yushu was indeed sleepy, and since they'd come to an agreement, there was no need for her to force herself to continue. She was resting now so that she could have more energy to wait for Shield Bro. Yushu yawned as she walked up the stairs. Wei Wu seemed to have sensed the tension in the living room as well. He raised his head to look at Yushu before lying there unmoving. Over the past 3 days, no one knew how many times the 3 girls had rotated, and no one deliberately counted. Anyway, when one of them woke up, the other would go to sleep, and the cycle repeated. God knows how many boxes of instant noodles they had eaten, and the sky would turn dark again. There was finally some movement in Lin Yi's room. Tang Yun and Yushu were on duty at the moment, and they stood up hurriedly when they heard the commotion, rushing towards Lin Yi's room. However, neither of them dared to make any loud noises, and when they reached Lin Yi's room, they opened the door quietly despite their anxiety, and carefully looked towards the direction of Lin Yi's bed. Lin Yi's eyelashes moved, and his eyelids were very heavy, but he finally struggled to open his eyes. Phew. Lin Yi let out a long sigh of relief. He finally woke up. This was the most difficult time ever since he got injured. Before this, he could recover most of his strength in 1 night and even improve a little. But this time, it took him 3 days and 3 nights just to recover from his injuries, and his strength didn't recover at all. After activating the art of Dragon Mastery, Lin Yi realized bitterly that the meridians in his body were still in a damaged state, and there wasn't a single bit of energy in his body that could be used. In other words, he was no different from a normal person now. Although he had already gotten over it in the Jade, Lin Yi was still a little disappointed when he returned to the real world. From a master to a normal person, it was just a matter of an instant. However, Lin Yi didn't regret it at all. In that situation, Lin Yi had no other choice. If he didn't use the energy bomb, he wouldn't have a chance of winning. This was because Ma Zhu was an anomaly among the physical masters. He practiced the Golden Bell Shield, and Lin Yi was 2 levels lower than him. A spiritual master at the peak of the early phase of Mystic Division could still fight against a physical master at the middle phase of Mystic Division, but it would be hard for him to fight against a physical master at the peak of the middle phase of Mystic Division, not to mention a monster like Ma Zhu. In a situation where there was no chance of winning, Lin Yi could only use all his strength and fight back. If he did as Elder Jiao said and used 1/3 of his energy to repair his meridians, he wouldn't be able to damage Ma Zhu as much as he did now with the remaining 2/3 of his energy to create an energy bomb. Linny wasn't sure if it would still be able to do that. 100% energy bomb wouldn't be able to kill Ma Zhu. It only blew off one of his arms. What could a 2/3 energy bomb do to him? If the attack didn't work, Lin Yi would have wasted 2/3 of the energy, and the remaining 1/3 would be useless. So, if the situation could be repeated, Lin Yi would still choose to do the same. He was a qualified follower, right? Although Peng Zhan had hired him to accompany the miss in her studies, he wasn't a full-time bodyguard, but Lin Yi was a stubborn man. He didn't care about money, he cared about friendship. If he didn't have feelings for Miss and Shu, would Lin Yi risk his life for 30,000 yuan? That was impossible. Lin Yi, you are awake? Tang Yun ran over in surprise. Yushu didn't want to be outdone. She also ran over to ask for praise. I knew that Shield Bro would be fine. He is the best. Although Lin Yi was unconscious before, he knew what happened outside, but he couldn't force himself to wake up because his body was too weak. He only woke up after his injuries were completely healed. Thank you for your hard work. Thank you for accompanying me for 3 days and 3 nights. Tang Yun and Yushu were stunned after hearing Lin Yi's words. How did Lin Yi know that they had been with him for 3 days and 3 nights? Although I was unconscious on the surface, I was awake the whole time. Lin Yi said, this time, you guys can have a good rest, right? We are not tired. Tang Yun shook her head. Yeah, Shield Bro, you are hungry, right? What do you want to eat? I will make it for you. Yushu said. Chapter 904. Back to shelter, I see. All right, we'll go rest then. Tang Yun nodded after hearing Lin Yi's words. Meng Yao woke up in a hurry and went to take over Tang Yun and Yushu's shift. She didn't sleep for long. Actually, only a couple of hours. She was worried about Lin Yi's safety, so how could she sleep well? She stumbled down the stairs, but didn't see Yushu and Tang Yun on the sofa. She was startled, but she vaguely heard some voices in Lin Yi's room. Could it be? Meng Yao's sleepiness disappeared instantly as she rushed to Lin Yi's room. She saw Lin Yi smiling as he laid on the bed, talking to Tang Yun and Shu. Meng Yao's heart relaxed instantly. She was so happy that Lin Yi was finally awake. Yao Yao, you should sleep too. I can tell that you didn't sleep well just by looking at your messy hair. It was Lin Yi's first time seeing such a messy miss. Her hair was messy, and she didn't have any image at all. Meng Yao blushed at Lin Yi's words. She remembered that she just woke up, and her hair was messy. Yushu and Tang Yun had been awake for a long time, and they'd already washed their faces and combed their hair. She was the only one who rushed over. Meng Yao's face showed a hint of shyness, a little different from her usual cold misimage. But the shyness disappeared in a flash, and she returned to her usual calm self. Tang Yun was here, and she had to control her emotions. It's good that you're awake. Do you still need to rest? Yeah, I need to rest for a while. You guys go rest too, Lin Yi said. The 3 girls all had their own thoughts. Meng Yao wanted to say thank you words, Yushu wanted to ask what Shield Bro's killer move was, and Tang Yun wanted to ask if there was anything Lin Yi needed her to do. She wanted to stay by Lin Yi's side and take care of him. However, the 3 of them could not say anything and could only leave the room together. Phew! Lin Yi breathed a sigh of relief. It wasn't that he didn't want to see the 3 women, nor did he really want to rest. On the one hand, he wanted the 3 women to rest, but the most important thing was that Lin Yi hadn't thought about what to say to them. Regarding the present and the future, Lin Yi did not know where to go. Lin Yi, who had lost his strength, could be found by enemies at any time. He could lose his life at any time, and he could also bring trouble and danger to the eldest miss. Without strength, it would be difficult for him to move an inch. Fortunately, his enemies did not know of his current situation. Otherwise, they would have come knocking on his door. Thinking of this, Lin Yi could not help but smile bitterly. He wanted to take out his phone to call the old man at home and ask him if there was any way, but when his hand reached into his pocket, he was shocked to find that his phone had been destroyed by his own energy bomb. Tang Yun, Meng Yao, and Yushu were really tired. Everyone was thinking about Lin Yi, and they didn't sleep well for the past 3 days and 3 nights. So, when they came out of Lin Yi's room and felt relieved, they immediately felt sleepy. Tang Yun was also resting in the bedroom above Meng Yao and Yushu. The mist didn't mind Tang Yun and let her sleep on her and Yushu's bed. The mist didn't know why she suddenly didn't reject Tang Yun so much. She accepted Lin Yi. Did that mean that she also accepted his woman? In short, Meng Yao didn't hate Tang Yun that much now. Was it a good thing or a bad thing? But Tang Yun was sleeping in the bedroom upstairs. Now that the three of them were going to sleep, how could they sleep on the same bed? Tang Yun also realized that it was inappropriate for the three of them to sleep together. So she took the initiative. Why don't I sleep on the sofa downstairs? Meng Yao was a little embarrassed after hearing Tang Yun's words. You are a guest? How can you sleep on the sofa? If you want to sleep, it should be Shu. Why me?
Yushu asked innocently. Haha.
Tang Yun knew that Meng Yao was being polite. How could she let Yushu sleep on the sofa? So she smiled. Is there a guest room here? Maybe I can sleep in the guest room? Yes, it's just upstairs beside the master bedroom. I'll clean it up for you. Meng Yao suddenly remembered that there was a guest room in the house. Yushu wanted to say that it was Shield Bro's room upstairs, but Meng Yao was quick to say that it was a guest room and needed to be cleaned up. It was obvious that it hadn't been used for a long time. Yushu couldn't help but feel dejected. Her plan to trick Tang Yun had failed. Lin Yi waited for the three girls to go upstairs. After a while, he came out of the room and came to the living room. General Wei Wu looked at Lin Yi curiously. It seemed to have sensed the change in Lin Yi's strength, but it couldn't speak the human language. It barked twice, but Lin Yi ignored it. It could only continue lying on the floor. Lin Yi used the landline phone in the villa and called Old Lin. Old Lin was in the toilet when he picked up the phone. He almost dropped the phone into the manure pit when it rang. What are you doing? Can't you call later? You're not going to the toilet again, are you? Lin Yi could guess what Old Lin was doing from his tone. Old Lin hemphed. What's the matter? Old man, I dropped a level. I'm a normal person now. Lin Yi didn't waste any time and directly told him about the trouble he was in. A normal person? What happened? Old Lin was startled. He didn't have the time to scold Lin Yi for calling at the wrong time, so he quickly asked, My meridians are all damaged. I can't train my chi. Lin Yi smiled bitterly and told Old Lin everything that happened. So you're saying that your meridians were destroyed by yourself? Old Lin's tone changed after hearing Lin Yi's story. Yes. Lin Yi was helpless. Old man, you're a miracle doctor. Do you have a solution? No. Old man Lin said straightforwardly. What's wrong with you? Aren't you being too careless? Forget it. According to what you said, it's not your fault. Hurry up and pack your bags and come back. Then focus on training your physical kung fu. I don't think you can stay in Songshan anymore. You'll only die if you stay there. Chapter 905. Showdown with the Mist. There are many spiritual practitioners in this world with damaged meridians, and many of them are my friends. If I had a way, I would have healed them a long time ago. Why would I wait until now? Old Lin explained. But there's nothing wrong with physical kung fu. You can still reach the peak if you practice it well. Plus, according to your analysis, there might be some unexpected benefits in that stone door. You might even be able to recover your strength, and then you'll be able to dominate the world with both internal and external skills. How could it be that simple? Lin Yi didn't know what to say after listening to Old Lin's words. It was as if practicing physical arts was an easy task for him, and he'd be able to reach the peak in the blink of an eye. But was that even possible? So what? Should I tell you that there's no hope for you, and that you should go home and farm? Old Lin rolled his eyes. Look at your Shift. Didn't he also practice physical before spiritual, becoming a dual practitioner? Dual practitioner. Lin Yi sweated. The old man's choice of words was quite bold. Anyways, that's all I have to say. Think about it yourself. Old Lin said. Look at Erguden. He's a physical practitioner too, right? Doesn't he look really strong? Can he be replicated? Do you have more of that liquid? Lin Yi rolled his eyes as well. No. Old Lin said straightforwardly. But I can try to make some more, but I won't care if I drink it to death. Lin Yi didn't have any temper left from Old Lin's words. but his mood was much better. All right, old man, I'll pack up and head back. We'll think of something when we get back. It's good that you're open-minded. All roads lead to Rome. Old Lin said. If it really doesn't work out, I'll let Erguden accompany you in the martial world. He'll be your personal bodyguard, and you can pretend to be a rich young master. That'll be awesome too. Lin Yi hung up, but Lin Yi had made his decision. It was time to go home. Although he had only been in Songshan for a little more than a month, he had already met a lot of people here. This experience was very precious, enough to make Lin Yi remember it for the rest of his life. There was the pure, beautiful, and strong-willed Tang Yun, the miss who was cold on the outside but warm on the inside, the cute, lively Shu. There was also that silly Lingshan who used to go against him, but was now obedient. There was also Guan Xian, Xiao Xiao, Wang Xinyan, Sun Jingyi. Would these people become passers-by in this part of his life? Where would Kang Xiaobo, Fatty Lai, Huaijuan, and Guan Shumin go after he left? No wonder the old man said that after completing this mission, he could retire peacefully. Previously, he thought that this mission was very simple, but now it seemed that it was not the case at all. Sitting in the familiar villa, Lin Yi was a little saddened. Perhaps he would have to leave tomorrow. Lin Yi remembered a poem. I leave quietly, just like I came quietly. I wave my sleeves, not taking a single cloud with me. Lin Yi felt that it was time for him to talk to the Mississippi. There were some things that had to be said. Before his enemies realized that his strength had disappeared, Lin Yi had to be prepared. At night, the Miss, Yushu, and Tang Yun woke up and came downstairs to see Lin Yi lying on the sofa watching TV, very relaxed. The three of them were a little nervous before, and their mood improved quite a bit. Lin Yi, are you all right? Meng Yao and Tang Yun were a little happy. The injuries on my body are fine now. Lin Yi only mentioned the injuries on his body. He didn't mention anything about his strength. He wanted to talk about this with the Miss and Tang Yun separately. That's good. Tang Yun nodded. What do you want to eat? I'll cook for you. It's okay. I ate a cup of instant noodles before, so I'm not hungry. Lin Yi stood up. Yun, why don't you go home first? You've been out for 3 days. Uncle and Annie must be worried about you, right? Tang Yun heard Lin Yi's words and was a little disappointed. Was Lin Yi kicking her out? Plus, under normal circumstances, Lin Yi rarely called her Yun in such an intimate way in front of outsiders. Tang Yun felt that something was off. She couldn't blame Tang Yun for thinking like that. Lin Yi just woke up, and she wanted to get closer to Lin Yi, but Lin Yi told her to go home. Tang Yun felt wronged, but she was also a little envious of the Miss and Yushu. Okay, but Tang Yun still nodded obediently. I'll ask you out for dinner later. Why don't you go back and tell Uncle and Annie that you're safe? Lin Yi felt Tang Yun's disappointment and knew that she misunderstood, but there were some things that Lin Yi couldn't explain in front of the three of them. Tang Yun heard that Lin Yi wanted to ask her out later, and she was happy again. Okay, I'll wait for your call. Lin Yi's weird actions made Meng Yao suspicious. After Tang Yun left, the Miss frowned. Why did you let Tang Yun go? I'd like to invite you out for a meal to celebrate your recovery from a serious illness. After spending 3 days together, Miss and Tang Yun had developed a subtle friendship between them. There's no rush. Lin Yi shook his head, and his expression suddenly became serious. Yao, Shu, there's something important I need to tell you. What is it? Meng Yao froze. She didn't think that Lin Yi would talk to her in such a serious tone. Just say it. Yeah, shield bro. Your expression is so scary. Yushu also wasn't used to Lin Yi's tone. Huh. Lin Yi smiled bitterly. Then I'll tell you the truth. Although my injuries are healed, I lost my strength. Lost your strength? What do you mean? Meng Yao paused. She didn't understand what Lin Yi meant. To put it simply, I'm like a normal person now. Lin Yi pretended to be relaxed. When I fought with Ma Zhu, I used that ultimate move, but it wasn't an ultimate move at all. I used it with the intention of dying with him. Although I came back to life, that move was a move that would destroy both sides. Ma Zhu was crippled by me, but I wasn't much better off. My strength dropped drastically as well. Chapter 906. Lin Yi resigned. Yeah. What do I have to do to help you recover? Yushu asked anxiously. I've read in martial arts novels that the main character needs to dual cultivate with someone to recover his strength. Is that true? Does he need Yao Yao to sacrifice herself? Linny almost burst out laughing at Yushu's words. This girl was a clown. Linny was used to her personality, and he didn't want to part with her. But there were some things he had to make a choice. Shu, don't interrupt. Listen to Linny. Meng Yao glared at Yushu. She couldn't help but think that if it was really like what Shu said, that they had to use that method to help Linny recover his strength, would she accept it? Maybe. After all, he lost his strength because of her. He almost lost his life. So what if she made some sacrifices? It wasn't because of the relationship between a man and a woman, but because a life for a life. It was her compensation to him. Meng Yao comforted herself like that. But why would he stay with her when he had Tang Yun? Meng Yao shook her head and threw those unrealistic thoughts to the back of her head. You've been fooled by those novels. Linny smiled bitterly. Those are all excuses the main characters find for their lustful behavior. Ugh, then are you lustful, shield bro? Yushu asked. Linny couldn't answer that. It was human nature. He didn't want to lie. Shu, what's with all the bullshit? Don't disturb him. Let him talk. How can he recover his strength? Meng Yao glared at Yushu as she scolded, annoyed. Oh, okay. Then tell me, shield bro, how can I recover my strength? Yao Yao and I will be your strongest shield. Yushu nodded. How? Linny sighed softly. I haven't found a way to recover yet, so I'm actually resigning today. You are leaving? Meng Yao froze and looked at Lin Yi in disbelief. Lin Yi's words were too much of a shock to her. She couldn't accept it. Why did he suddenly want to leave when everything was fine just now? And Lin Yi nodded. I'm going to find a way to recover my strength. Can't we find it here? Meng Yao was starting to panic. I took Uncle Chu's money and came here to accompany you, but I have lost the ability to protect you. Why should I stay here? Lin Yi shrugged. Heh, don't worry. After I leave, Uncle Chu will find a new follower for you. Maybe he'll be more obedient than me and won't make you angry. Meng Yao wanted to say, I don't want you, I want you. However, the words were stuck at the tip of her tongue, and she couldn't say them. She looked at Lin Yi in a daze, feeling that this was a bit unreal. Was he really going to leave? So soon? Oh, it's fine. You have money anyway. You don't care about that 30,000. You don't need a salary. Yao Yao sis and I will take care of you. Yushu didn't think as much as Meng Yao. She said without hesitation. When you recover your strength, you can ask for a raise. Huh? Linny smiled. Don't say stupid things, Shu. You're not stupid, are you? Yushu looked at Lin Yi in shock. Her eyes were wide open, and she finally lowered her head and didn't say anything. You really want to leave? I know that you don't care about that 30,000. Meng Yao bit her lips and looked at Lin Yi. You said that we're friends. You lost your strength because of us. How could we kick you out just because of that? Do you think that I, Meng Yao, would do something like that? Huh. Lin Yi looked at the Mississippi. He didn't want to leave, but he was clear-headed. I'm the one who asked to leave. It has nothing to do with you. All right, I'll leave first. Before I leave, I need to talk to Tang Yun. You? Meng Yao looked at Lin Yi, wanting to say something. She shut her mouth after seeing Lin Yi get up and walk towards the villa's door. Lin Yi left just like that, disappearing from Meng Yao and Yushu's sight. Meng Yao retracted her gaze. She didn't know if it was melancholy or something else, but she wasn't in a good mood. Meng Yao's good mood from Lin Yi's recovery disappeared at this moment. It was as if she had lost something precious. She had the urge to cry, but when she looked at Shu beside her, she didn't cry. Yao Yao, you have to be strong. How can you cry for a man? If he wants to leave, then so be it. It's not that you want to let him down, it's that he wants to leave. Although Meng Yao said that in her heart, she really felt terrible. Yao Yao sis, is Shield Bro really leaving? Yushu asked. It's true. Meng Yao nodded. But I don't want him to leave. Yushu said honestly. I know, but we can't stop him. Meng Yao shook her head. Not even Uncle Chu? Yushu asked suddenly. Daddy. Meng Yao paused. She suddenly remembered that her dad had found Lin Yi. Would Lin Yi listen to her dad? He should, right? Otherwise, Why would he come all the way here for 30,000 yuan and do such a hard job? Meng Yao's eyes lit up at the thought as she stumbled to the phone and dialed Peng Zhan's number. Yao Yao? How's Lin Yi? Is he awake? Peng Zhan had just gotten off work when he received his daughter's call. He didn't hire a chauffeur for the past few days, so he didn't hire a chauffeur. He was used to driving himself. Yeah, Meng Yao nodded. Daddy, but Lin Yi's leaving. He's resigning. Resigning? Why? Peng Zhan blinked. Is it because it's too dangerous? Peng Zhan was worried when Lin Yi was unconscious. This time, Lin Yi was in too much danger. Meng Yao had already told him about the process. Lin Yi almost lost his life. No, his injuries are healed, but he doesn't have his skills anymore. Meng Yao said. He said that he's like a normal person now. He can't protect me and Shu anymore. He's resigning. Chapter 907. Marriage Matters. Peng Zhan arrived at the villa to see his daughter, and Shu sitting on the sofa, not watching TV or doing anything else. He couldn't help but sigh. Yao Yao, what happened? We didn't make it clear on the way here. Can you tell me in detail, and we can think of a solution together? Daddy, Meng Yao wanted to cry, but Shu was there, and she had to maintain the image of a big sister. She took a deep breath and controlled her emotions, telling Peng Zhan everything that had happened. But Lin Yi didn't go into too much detail, so Meng Yao repeated his words to Peng Zhan, who fell into deep thought as well. I got a general idea of what Lin Yi is thinking from what he said. Peng Zhan sighed. First, he wants to leave because he doesn't have the strength to protect you anymore. But that's not a big deal. Being a follower doesn't mean that he needs to protect you. I can hire another bodyguard for you, but that's not a big deal. But the key is Lin Yi's attitude. Whether he's willing to stay or not, I'll have to talk to him about this. Secondly, little Yi is afraid that after he loses his strength, he will attract revenge from his enemies. This problem, if I hire a powerful bodyguard, then it won't be a problem. So, I need to know what little Yi is thinking. Okay. Meng Yao nodded, relieved after hearing her father's words. Yao Yao, didn't you want to kick Lin Yi out before? Peng Zhan couldn't help but tease. Now that Lin Yi is quitting, why don't you agree? That's different from before. He's our savior now. How can we be ungrateful? Meng Yao said as she looked at Shu. Right, Shu? Yeah. Yao Yao has already decided to marry him. Shu nodded. Meng Yao almost exploded from anger. Why did you have to go along with it? Just say yeah. Why did you have to say all that bullshit? Yao Yao, come with me, Peng Zhan said after a pause. He stood up and waved at his daughter. Oh? Meng Yao blinked. What was it that they couldn't talk about in the living room? There was only Shu in the living room. She wasn't an outsider. Meng Yao, however, saw that her father was already walking towards Lin Yi's room. Meng Yao had no choice but to follow. Peng Zhan walked into Lin Yi's room and waited for Meng Yao to come in before closing the door. Yao Yao, have a seat. Oh, Daddy, what's the matter? You still want to hide it from Shu? Meng Yao looked at her father in confusion. She was afraid that Shu would be unhappy. In the past, Shu would never hide anything from her. Shu, on the other hand, wasn't unhappy at all. She was just a little curious, and after Peng Zhan and Meng Yao entered the room, Shu made her way to Lin Yi's room and listened carefully. Yao Yao, tell Daddy the truth. Do you like Lin Yi? Peng Zhan looked at his daughter and asked after some hesitation. Meng Yao froze. She looked at Peng Zhan dumbfoundedly and blushed. Dad, what are you talking about? Why would I like Lin Yi? Haha. Peng Zhan looked at his daughter's nervous expression and laughed. Then do you want Lin Yi to stay? I do. Meng Yao stuttered. But what does this have to do with liking Lin Yi? You need to have a good reason if you want Lin Yi to stay, right? Peng Zhan smiled. Lin Yi is a man of integrity. He's injured and can't carry out his duties anymore. That's why he's resigning. Think about it. If we told him that we'd take care of him and let him stay in the villa, with his personality, would he accept it? Meng Yao paused and shook her head slowly. Lin Yi might look shameless sometimes, but he was a man of principle. It would be very difficult for him to stay. I don't think so. Otherwise, he would have stayed long ago. So, if you want Lin Yi to stay, you need a good reason. Peng Zhan said. But Lin Yi isn't related to us at all. Why would he stay? Meng Yao was starting to understand what her daddy was saying. If Lin Yi was her boyfriend, then perhaps he'd stay. But was he really? He wasn't. In other words, if Lin Yi becomes a family with us, why would he leave? Peng Zhan looked at his daughter's embarrassed face. He didn't expect her to admit anything, but he could guess what she was thinking. I want you to marry Lin Yi. What do you think? Huh. Meng Yao's eyes widened. She looked at her father in disbelief. She had long noticed that her father's attitude towards Lin Yi was unusual. After the first family dinner, Meng Yao discussed this with Yushu. Yushu's answer was that either Uncle Chu wanted Lin Yi to be his son-in-law, or Lin Yi was his illegitimate child. Now, it seemed that her father had been thinking about this all along. Meng Yao was shocked. Did her father really want her to marry Lin Yi? Was it true? Then, should he agree to it? Meng Yao's breathing quickened. There was a voice in her heart urging her to agree. Agree. Isn't this what you want? However, another cold voice sounded. Lin Yi had a girlfriend. Lin Yi has a girlfriend, Meng Yao said. That's just a girlfriend. They're not married yet? Peng Zhan narrowed his eyes. He looked at his daughter and said with a smile that wasn't a smile, You have to fight for it. I just want to ask your opinion. Meng Yao blushed. She didn't know how to answer. After a while, she said shyly, Marriage is a big thing. I don't have anyone I like. If Daddy wants to help me, I'll reluctantly agree. Anyway, he saved my life, so I should repay him. Haha. Peng Zhan smiled. It seemed that his daughter's attitude towards Lin Yi had changed a lot without him noticing. Then I'll talk to Lin Yi and see what he thinks. Okay. Meng Yao nodded shyly. Chapter 908. What about me? What about me? What about me? Yushu ran in. Yao, you're so mean. How could you forget about me? Meng Yao almost jumped out of her chair, startled by Yushu's sudden appearance. She couldn't hide things like this from Yushu, but Meng Yao was still very nervous right now. Someone barging in just like that was enough to scare her. Peng Zhan, on the other hand, didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect Yushu to hear it even though he was trying to avoid her. Haha, how could I forget about you? Peng Zhan smiled as he looked at his daughter's best friend. He knew Yushu's personality very well. She was crazy all the time, but she was very close to his daughter. If it were possible, they'd be good sisters for life. I'm the small wife, right, Yao? You promised me. Don't tell me you're going back on your word now. Yushu seemed to have heard everything Peng Zhan and Meng Yao had said. When did I go back on my word? Meng Yao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Buy one get one free. I bet that Lin Yi would be very happy. Peng Zhan looked at his daughter and didn't see any hidden emotions in her expression. He let out a sigh of relief and smiled. Shu, if you want to get married, and Yao doesn't mind, I don't mind either. But you have to talk to the Qin family yourself. Peng Zhan wasn't a stubborn man. He was just a normal businessman, but for some reason, he'd come into contact with some hidden houses and sects, even higher existences. He didn't have much of an objection to his daughter and Shu marrying Lin Yi at the same time, as long as his daughter was happy. As for Yushu's house-Qin, it was up to Yushu herself to convince them. He couldn't help much. Oh, really? Yushu paused, looking at Peng Zhan strangely. She'd always been one to mix truth with falsehood, and this time, she'd used the same tone to speak to Peng Zhan half-jokingly. She wanted to see what Peng Zhan's reaction would be, but Peng Zhan's attitude was completely unperturbed. He'd only asked for Meng Yao's opinion. Peng Zhan smiled and didn't say anything. He stood up and walked out of the room, thinking that it would be impossible for the two of them to be apart for the rest of their lives. It was rare for them to be this close, but Lin Yi was still a problem. Lin Yi had a girlfriend in school. What was his attitude towards her? Peng Zhan wasn't sure. It seemed that his daughter had acted a little too late. Lin Yi had only been in Songshan for a little more than a month, but he had already established his own network. Even Lu Tianyi listened to him. Father was right. Lin Yi was a talent. His future was limitless. Jin Dazhou looked at his son, who had become a eunuch, and Ma Zhu, who had lost half of his arm, in disbelief. How was this possible? Wasn't Ma Zhu a mystic mid-phase peak at the 8th level of his golden shield? How did he get beaten up like this? Wasn't Lin Yi just a mystic early phase peak? There was such a huge gap between the two, and Ma Zhu had a godly skill protecting him. How did he lose? Yao Wang, how's the situation? Is there any hope for my son to recover? Zhen Dazhou regretted it. If he hadn't wanted to deal with Lin Yi and let Meng Yao and Yu Shu go after getting the money, this wouldn't have happened. He wasn't willing to accept it, and besides the regret, there was a deep hatred. Lin Yi, Zhen Dazhou, wouldn't have lived in this world if I didn't kill him. No. King Pharmacist shook his head. Although I'm called King Pharmacist, it's only because of my excellent medical skills. Your son's balls were shot by a bullet. Unless I have the ability to make a dead tree bloom and bear fruit, it's impossible for this thing to regenerate. Dad, I don't want to be a eunuch. I haven't had enough fun. Sob, sob, sob. Jin Yingjun cried. He hated Lin Yi to the core. Although Lin Yi turned him into a eunuch, it was just a fake one. But now, he was a real eunuch. Although it was all Yushu's fault, Zhen Yingjun hated Lin Yi. If it wasn't for Lin Yi who injured Ma Zhu, Yushu wouldn't have the chance to take advantage of him. In the end, it was all because of Lin Yi. He wanted Lin Yi to die, and he couldn't be more dead. Son, don't worry. Even if I have to go bankrupt, I'll treat you. Zhen Dazhou clenched his teeth. Although he earned a lot of money, he didn't have any descendants. What was the use of money? Zhao Qibing's eyes lit up when he heard that Zhen Dazhou was going bankrupt to treat Jin Yingjun. He knew that Zhen Dazhou just got 250 million from Peng Zhan, and he was drooling over it. If he could get this 250 million, the damage from the collapse of the skyscraper would be nothing. Building another grand skyscraper wouldn't be a dream anymore. With that in mind, Zhao Qibing said to Yao Wang, can you think of another way? Can you treat Jin Yingjun? I'll think about it. I'll look up some information and see if there's any good way. Yao Wang knew that Zhao Qibing didn't want to give up such a good opportunity to earn money, but he couldn't think of any good way to treat Jin Yingjun right now. Although Yao Wang's main purpose was to trick people, there were techniques to it. He didn't just lie randomly. It wasn't wrong for him to treat people more and more sick, but the premise was that he had to cure one disease and create another one. Jin Yingjun's current condition made him feel helpless. However, in order to earn money for Master Bing, Yao Wang thought that he should think about it carefully and see if he could come up with a solution. Okay, thanks for the trouble, Yao Wang. Zhen Dazhou didn't know that Zhao Qibing and Yao Wang wanted to continue scamming money. He thought that after this period of contact, they got familiar with each other and formed a friendship, so Yao Wang couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Sure. Yao Wang nodded. Right, Master Ma, what did the boss say? Zhen Dazhou turned to Ma Zhu. Ma Zhu was also in a miserable state. His body was covered in bandages. The boss is fine. My master will send some of his brothers over. Ma Zhu said sadly. He was the youngest and most promising disciple in the sect, and he had reached the 8th level of Golden Shield at such a young age. He was a physical practitioner at the peak of the middle phase of Mystic Division, and he was the hope of the entire sect. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.